Hello everybody, welcome back to Umineko. The last time left off, Enji was investigating what happened on Rakinjima, and she met Nanjo's son as well as Kumasawa's son, and they discovered the whole thing about the letters. But anyway, today we are going to be back on Rakinjima of 1986, and without further ado, let's just get right into today's episode. Once again, there was a call from Krauss to the guest house, and the message was that Kinzo wanted to hold a test to see if the grandchildren had the qualifications to be the next head. From Krauss's restrained style of speech, Jessica realized as his daughter that he was being forced to speak. And she was forced into the realization that the hostages were being exposed to danger even now, and that if they refused this test, there was a possibility that the hostages would be harmed.
それで私たちはどうすればいいの?
Krauss held the receiver away from his ear and looked at the grinning Kinzo on the other side of the bars. Grinning Kinzo. Kinzo gave his next order.
テストの前に無関係なものを排除しなくてはならない。
Unrelated?
ゴーダと熊沢がそこにいるのであろう。テストに干渉されては邪魔なのでな。彼らをゲストハウスより追放せよ。
追放ですか。
バラ庭園に園芸倉庫があったはず。そこへゴーダと熊沢を閉じ込めて施錠せよ。
Lock them there.
まずはそれからだ。直ちに遂行するように伝えよ。我が武具たちが監視する。疑わしい行為に及べばテストは直ちに中止し、お前たちすべてを生贄として処刑する。
わかりました。もしもしジェシカ、今から父さんの言うことをよく聞きなさい。
Krauss relayed to Jessica the orders to lock up Gohda and Kumasawa.
どんなテストをなさるつもりですか?
実に簡単なテストだとも。孫たちの覚悟を見せてもらうだけだ。
What is he planning? Some kind of death game?
さて、どんな結果を見せてくれるのか。
With displeasure, Kyrie watched Krauss, who was talking with the children. It's regrettable, but for now we can't refuse orders. In this dungeon, a feeble resistance won't amount to anything. If we provoke him too much and drive him into a position where he might kill us, there will no longer be any way to stop this murderer. For now, the only choice left is to obey his rules without agitating him, all the while waiting for a chance. However, if we continue to obediently follow his commands, the children might be attacked in this so-called test, and they might even lose their lives. Whether we feign obedience or try to resist, nothing will cause the situation to improve. Anyway, keeping our eyes peeled so that we don't let a single chance escape until the very end is the only resistance possible now. While telling herself this, Kyrie watched over Krauss as he delivered Kinzo's orders.
キリエさん、ここは辛抱しましょ
う。分かってるわ。悔しいけれど、今は待つしかない。この鉄格子さえ何とかできれば、私たちは屋敷へ戻ることができるんだから。
なんとかここを出られれば、試してみましょう。金蔵さん、頼みがある。
何か我が友よ。
金蔵さんが子供たちを試したいというのはよくわかった。金蔵さんの納得のいくようにするといい。金蔵さんの力がなければ、とっくに潰れていたかもしれない後ろ宮家だ。
Is he buttering him up?
その担い手を慎重に選びたい気持ち、よくわかる。それに そのための親族会議だ。私ら邪魔はせんよ。
お前の理解が得られて助かる。そうだ、これは親族会議なのだ。私が次期当主を選び決定する最後の親族会議なのだよ。
それでだが金蔵さん、ここはあまりに冷えすぎる。あんたのテストの邪魔はせんから、もう少し暖かい場所に移してもらうことはできんかね。
Wait till he locks you in the boiler room, Nanjo. Do you want that? At Nanjo's words, the slight signs that Kinzo's moods had been improving were blown away. A moment of silence struck Nanjo as Kinzo glared at him with dangerous eyes, as though evaluating him.
確かにここは冷えますね。老体にはおつらいでしょう。親方様、上の部屋に移し替えても良いのでは。
それはできん。甘いぞ南條。お前は一手猶予を与えるような素振りで実に華麗に布石を打つではないか。
Oh well, Nanjo shouldn't have been playing chess with Kinzo to begin with.
その手には乗らんぞ。凍えるというなら真っ赤に焼けた石炭でも敷き詰めてやればよい。
申し訳ございません。
Virgilia had tried to help out too, but in the end, Kinzo was having none of it.
あなたたちはおとなしいのね。その気になればこんな鉄格子簡単に破れるでしょうに。
He's talking to Shannon and Cannon, right?
ここを破ったとて何もなりません。
確かにここを破ったならゴールドスミスのゲームが終わることを意味する。あなたたちも、そしてゲストハウスの人間たちも即座に金蔵の儀式の生贄となるでしょうね。でも案外あなたたちだけかもしれないわよ。
You know, Gap has a really nice voice.
この状況を打開できる力を持っているのはね。
Why is she tempting them like that?
黄金鏡にたどり着きたいんでしょ。叶えたい夢がいっぱいあるんでしょ。
ガープ、挑発はいけませんよ。これはあなたのゲームではない。親方様の、そしてお嬢様のゲームです。
どうしたロノウェイ。
いえいえ、何も。捕虜とおしゃべりをしていました。お許しを。
Gap sent one final sneering smile at Cannon, then turned away. Cannon could only bite his lower lip and shake his fist.
くそ。
よく頑張ったね。よく我慢したよ。
僕たちは無力だ。家具だから。
What is furniture? God, what is furniture? Because of furniture, they can't interfere with the game at all?
そうだね。私たちは無力。でも家具は必要とされることだって。そして愛されることだってあるよ。今の私たちは暗い地下室にしまわれているだけ。きっといつか誰かが愛してくれる。必要としてくれるから。だから今は挑発に乗らないで耐えようね。
お父さん、ゴーダたちを倉庫に閉じ込めるように指示をしました。
よかろう。電話を切ってよい。シエスタ姉妹、孫たちがゴーダと熊沢を閉じ込めるのを監視せよ。もしも不審な動きがあるようならば、その時点で次期当主を選ぶテストは終了だ。
When Kinzo made his order, the Chester sisters appeared behind him in a line.
了解であります。石膏は私がやる。556と410は両翼支援。
556? Who is 556?
45は全集警戒。
00-556は
Huh?
そうだった。すまない。
いい子でした。
Oh no, it sounds like she's gone.
だから私は嫌いに。いいやつは。
何をしているかシエスタ姉妹。我が命令を遂行せよ。
Well, I'm sensing something's gonna happen with the Chester sisters. I mean, maybe not now, but possibly in future episodes.
失礼しました。では監視に向かうであります。出撃。
The Chester sisters erased their forms simultaneously. Nanjo and Kyrie witnessed the instance they appeared and disappeared as if by teleportation, but they interpreted this as if they had probably moved in and out of the darkness in a way that only looked like teleportation. Okay, that's more hints for me, right? And the two could do nothing but rub their eyes.
さて、私はテストの準備をしよう。ロノウェイ、ガープ、お前たちには試験官を頼む。ワルギリアはこやつらを監視するように。
Rats, he says. Damn.
何しろ我が家具が2人いる。一応は警戒せよ。
He glanced sharply at Shannon and Cannon. Tightly closing her eyes, Shannon gave a silent bow, answering wordlessly that she would not cause any trouble.
かしこまりました。注意します。
リーヤの老体には寒くて辛くない？湯たんぽでも持ってくる？
うるさいです。早くお行きなさい。ガップ。
Their dynamic and interaction is really funny.
さてさて、テストとは、そして試験官とは、今回のゲームは変わった試みですね。お嬢様を楽しませる展開になると良いのですが。
さあさあおいでなさい。ヤギの従者たち。
Virgilia called out into the dark, and from that spot, 3 massive goat-headed attendants slowly melted into vision.
リーチェの眷属ね。便利だわ。しかも暖かそうだし。ああ、湯たんぽの代わりね。ならヤギより羊の方がいいんじゃない？
カシミヤゾーキーのくせにうるさいですよ。彼らは賢くはありませんが、命令に忠実で強靭な頼れる従者たちです。
She called her a cashmere mop.
任せるぞ。我が友ワルギリアよ。残りの者は私と来い。
Kinzo turned with a grand swish of his cloak. Following him were Renove and Gap, as well as the 3 recently summoned goat attendants.
あなたたちは私と残るのですよ。ついていかないように。
That's hilarious. The goats jumped in surprise and then came plodding back. Kyrie, who had been watching in disbelief as all of this played out, couldn't help but snort.
愉快な部下ね。ゴールドスミス教より死後の許可は与えられていませんよ。
She was probably a little embarrassed. Virgilia had spoken coldly, but Kyrie could see right through that, and for a little while, she couldn't restrain her muffled laughter. However, on the inside, Kyrie was surprised at the number of people Kinzo had with him. Because, including Kinzo himself, at least 10 enemies had already been spotted. The dungeon they were currently locked in was supposedly underneath the hidden mansion called Quadorian. Although this mansion's existence had been whispered of, not even Krauss had known it for a fact until today. Were there actually several facilities like this on Rokkenjima, unknown to all but Kinzo? Hiding untold numbers of henchmen that only Kinzo knew of. Just how many humans are on Rokkenjima locked away by the typhoon? No, actually, are we the only ones under the impression that there are only 18 people on this island? As we bickered over whether Beatrice existed or not, and racked our brains over something as minor as a 19th person, were we on this island the perfect example of frogs in a well? No, wait. In fact, at this point, are there actually more people on the enemy side than on ours? Oh god.
何が起こってるの？魔女？悪魔？ 魔法？それを信じろというの？
No!
おかしいのは私の目？それとも頭なの？頭がどうにかなりそうよ。
A mass murder by magic. Demons swarming and disappearing in thin air. More importantly than the enemy's numbers, how should we interpret these various things thrust before our eyes that cannot be explained with the common sense of this world? Kyrie started to feel like she didn't know what was going on anymore. And while desperately battling the urge to abandon everything and give up, she clenched her teeth in an attempt to hold on to her sanity. Obviously, Gohda and Kumasawa were quite unwilling to be locked in the Rose Garden shed, but to be honest, I feel like that is the safest spot in the whole island right now. But they had been threatened that, if they resisted, the hostages' safety could not be guaranteed. It was fairly hard to get them to agree, but once the idea was raised that their safety might actually be guaranteed, if the key to the gardening storehouse was to be handed to them through a cracked open window after they were shut inside, and it was suggested that blankets and food could be carried in for them, they were finally convinced. I will be honest, I think this is where I would like to hide if I were caught in a murder game like this. At the very least, the gardening shed could be locked and you have some food, some blanket, you can probably survive until the next day. I would rather be kept in here than stay outside. Why hasn't anyone thought of this?
Koko wa samu-samu shii desu ne. Watashi tachi wa itsu made koko ni tojikommerarete ireba ii no deshou ka?
下手をすると月曜の朝まで丸々一昼夜はいてもらうことになるかもしれない。本当にお二人には申し訳なく思うよ。
I just can't help but think that why does George know in the worst case scenario it's Monday? In the worst case scenario it could be forever, you know that, right? We don't know how long Kinzo's his test will last, so I don't know. Promising that it will be up till Monday at the worst case scenario is kind of a bit, too much, don't you think, George? Anyway, George and Battler cleared a space on the floor, then spread the blankets there. They also left the canned food, crackers, and other light snacks they had brought.
月曜の朝までを二人でこの量じゃ辛いな。せめて厨房に寄れたなら。
余計な場所には行くなと言われてる。私たちは監視されてるらしいしな。
何もお力になれないことを申し訳なく思います。こんな時に皆さんのおそばにいてこその私どもなのに。
仕方ないです。それより熊沢さんをよろしく頼みますね。何が起こるかわからない。いざという時は臨機応変に助けてほしい。そして何よりも無事でいてほしい。
ええ、分かっています。皆さんこそ気をつけてくださいね。今の親方様はまるで人の命をチェスの駒のように奪います。
Very apt comparison, Gohda.
気をつけてください。
Gohda stared at the floor, remembering that atrocity in the dining hall, even now unable to believe what had happened. And he hung his head in shame at his inability to fully describe that terror.
ありがとう。くれぐれも注意してくださいね。熊沢さんも。
ジョージさんたちもくれぐれもご用心なさってくださいね。もう私には何が何やらさっぱりわかりませんとも。
それじゃあ僕たちは行きます。行こう、バトラ君、ジェシカちゃん、ほらマリアちゃんも。
Looking at the painful expression on the faces of the pair to be imprisoned, it became hard to close the shutter. But we can't disobey. We're being watched. We brought the shutter down and locked it, and George headed to the small window on the side of the storehouse. It was a small latticed window which could only be used for light and ventilation. It looked like something from a jail, making the two of them seem even more pitiable. But on the other hand, it would protect them from Kinzo and his subordinates, or so one would hope. He opened a window and called them out.
大丈夫ですか？寒くないですか？
To be honest, even if they're not okay, they have to say they're okay, right? It's not like George could ask them, "Are you okay? Are you cold?" And Kumasawa can be like, "I'm freezing, I'm dying," and break down in tears. It's not like she could do that because it's just, I mean, what can they do anyway? I guess it's just gonna be bad either way.
毛布をこんなにいただきましたからね。くるまっていればきっと平気ですよ。
石油ストーブとかを持ってくればよかったな。
ここじゃ換気できないからね。辛いだろうけど今は仕方がない。僕たちは人質を取られている。逆らえない。
なんとかキリエさんたちを救出することができれば。
聞かれてるかもしれないよ。ゴーダさん、これそのシャッターの鍵です。
George threw the key in through the tiny window.
確かにお預かりします。
Gohda took the key and after showing it to Kumasawa, placed it in his own pocket. We no longer have the whole "how many master keys do you have?" scenario. Not anymore. There was only one key to the garden shed's shutter. That was being held by those who were locked up inside. If the children had held onto it, then if it was stolen from them by some chance, that would risk exposing the lives of those in the shed to danger. Wouldn't the master key open this? I can't really remember, but I feel like it might. And even with the key, the shutter could not be opened from the inside. It satisfied Kinzo's demand. However, there was no longer any way to open the shed from the outside either. This would protect them. Kinzo had ordered that they be confined, and we could do nothing but trust that this cold-locked room would protect them. Holding Maria's hand, Jessica watched George hand over the key and looked over the thickets in a pitch-black rose garden. Somewhere in the darkness, somebody was hiding, watching to see whether they obeyed orders or not. Of course, merely pointing their flashlights out there did nothing to make any suspicious silhouettes appear, but somebody was surely out there, hiding and watching. They were hit many times with an urge to scream at them, but they held that back through reason. The four children left the area behind, repeatedly looking back over their shoulders. The feeble light from the light bulb in the gardening storehouse was seeping out slightly. Was it at all possible that this insane incident would somehow come to an end so that they could see those two again? To George, who had closed the shutter himself, the resistance of the lock made it feel as though he had killed them with his own hands. Oh goodness.
それでも俺たちは逆らえないんだよな。
テストだとクソじじいめ、ふざけやがって。それで母さんたちが殺されて父さんたちが捕まって理解できねえぜ。ぶっ殺してやる。
大丈夫だよジェシカお姉ちゃん、悲しくなんかないよ。
マリア、
もうすぐ魔女は蘇る。
I was waiting to see what Maria would say, but as expected, I guess.
すぐに黄金鏡で会えるよ。
不謹慎なことで笑うんじゃねえぜ。何が魔女復活の儀式だ。妄想はじい様の頭の中だけにしときゃいいものを大勢巻き込みやがって。こいつは高くつくぜ。
ゲストハウスに戻ろう。おじい様から電話があった際に不在だったらまずい。
Urged on by George, everyone began walking towards the guest house. At that moment, Jessica spun around and roared towards the darkness of the rose garden.
おい、誰か見てんだろ。ジジイに伝えとけ。絶対にぶち殺してやるってな。行こう。
She was supposed to hold it back, but she didn't. I guess probably because of Maria's words. Of course, there was no reply, only the howl of the wind and rain. The children returned to the guest house, in fear of what would be waiting for them when they got back. After they departed, from the exact point in the darkness that Jessica had yelled at, 2 rabbit ears sprung up. Oh, 45 is so cute.
45がすっとろいからバレたに。竜王様に怒られる。ごめんなさいごめんなさい。竜王様に言いつけるのは許してください。
黙れ静かに。どうせハッタリだ。ゴーダと熊沢の監禁は確認した。任務完了。報告に戻るぞ。
イエーイイエーイ。
That is good. Good job.
連帯責任で人参と水だけの刑になりたいか。行くぞ。
It certainly seemed to be a fact that they were being watched. Because once they returned to the cousins' room, turned the lights on, and lay down on their beds, the phone rang again. Up until now, Jessica had been answering the phone, seeing as if it was her house, but now it was George, as the eldest, who picked it up. This time, Kyrie-'s son was on the other end of the phone. George handed it to Battler out of consideration.
もしもし、キリエさんか。そっちは大丈夫なのか。
心配をありがとう。今のところは快適よ。ごめんなさい。死後は慎めと命令されてる。今から伝えることをよく聞いて。
The fact that they were hostages still hasn't changed, and Kinzo or one of his subordinates were probably listening to this conversation. Battler restrained the urge to talk about other things and focused on what Kyrie had to say.
テストはジェシカちゃん、ジョージ君、バトラ君、そしてマリアちゃんの順で行われるそうよ。
Jessica first. So, oh, I see. In order of the hierarchy.
順番に呼び出すから、それまでその部屋を出ないこと。呼び出された者は一人で指定された場所に向かうこと。
Battler repeated it out loud so that his cousins would also understand.
ジェシカ、兄貴、俺、マリアの順で呼び出しがあるまで部屋にいろ。
God, I'm just thinking about it, but if someone in the room were to be like the enemy and they were on a phone, they could just relay anything they want to the other cousins. Of course, right now, no one's doubting each other, but I'm sure something's gonna happen down the line that will make us start to doubt people.
わかったな。マリアもなのかよ。9歳の子にまで。クソジジイは何を強いる気なんだ。
後ろ宮家の命運はあなたたちに握られてるわ。頑張って。
ああ。
Battler noticed the strange nuance in Kirie's words. Even without any blood connection, he could still understand thanks to the long-lasting bond they shared. Now is not the time to worry about the future of the Ushiromiya family. That wasn't a message that Kyrie wanted to send. She probably meant there is no way for us to escape from this dungeon, and we can only wait to be rescued. Our lives are in your hands. Something like that.
ああ、任せてくれ。どんなテストか知らねえが上等だぜ。受けて立ってやら。本気のテストなんだよな。マジにやっちまっていいんだよな。
ええ、本気のテストよ。おじい様も本気で試すつもりでいるわ。
ダメだな。全然ダメだぜ。
Feels like they're speaking to each other in code.
死にかけの老いぼれが俺と本気？寝言は棺に入ってから言いやがれ。そこにいるジジイに言っとけ。 次期当主は俺だ。その最初の仕事はてめえの面に鉄拳ぶち込んでやることだってな。
I approve of this, Battler. Do it. Even without Kyrie having to repeat it, Battler's powerful declaration of war reached Kinzo's ears.
バトラー、それは実に楽しみであるぞ。一度は後ろ宮の名を捨てた男が何を身につけ、何の境地に至って我が前に現れるというのか、楽しみにしている。そう伝えよ。
Unfortunately, Kinzo's voice was not picked up by the receiver, so Kyrie spoke for him.
大いに上等だそうよ。いい？バトラ君。手加減は不要よ。あなたはルドルフさんの息子。いいえ、私の息子よ。
Wow.
誰に自慢しても恥ずかしくないところを私にも見せてちょうだい。あなたに全てを託すわ。
了解だぜ、母ちゃん。あとは任せておけ。
私たち全員は当主跡継ぎの資格を失っている。もう私たちは取られてゲーム版から外された駒も同然よ。だからあなたたちだけで戦って。
キリエさん。
The nuance of those words was, "We've already given up. You can forget about us. But for that very reason, I won't give up. I'm gonna wreck this test or whatever and save everyone."
それでは一番最初のジェシカちゃんへのテストの指示よ。自分の部屋へ行けですって。
自分の部屋？
お屋敷のジェシカちゃんの自室って意味のよね。
ジェシカに代わる。直接伝えてやってくれ。
The first thing that flashed into my mind was that's where Jessica died in episode 2.
ジェシカ。
もしもし。はい。わかりました。私からか。もう覚悟決めたぜ。行ってくるぜ。
In actuality, Jessica was probably feeling the fear of a girl her age, but she buried those feelings and strengthened her resolve.
用心してね。
私たちは監視されてんだろ。余計なこともできない。言いなりになるしかないさ。
食堂でジジイは何のためらいもなく瞬く間に6人を殺したという。それは俺たちに対しても同じかもな。
分かってる。返り討ちにしてやるぜ。
無茶はダメだよ。危険だと思ったら自分を最優先にして。クラウスおじさんが自分のために娘が犠牲になったことを知ったら胸が張り裂けてしまうに違いないから。
逆も同じだぜ。父さんと母さんが殺されて私だけが生き残ったら私の胸だって張り裂けるぜ。
バトラ君、さっきの話は本当だよね。
ああ、キリエさんたちはもう覚悟を決めている。
ならなおのこと上等だぜ。みんなの命は私たちの双剣にかかってるってことだ。人質みんなは囚われの身で何もできない。なら私たちが何とかするしかねえんだぜ。
もし何かあったらゲストハウスに逃げ戻って、その時点で僕たちがおじい様のゲームに付き合うのは終了だ。
兄貴。
その時点で僕たちは宣戦布告。どこかに閉じ込められている彼らを救い出し、おじい様には叱るべき処遇を与える。
I'm sure all of this is being recorded and heard, but I don't know. They can say that now, but will it be possible? Later on, will they have to resolve? Is George trustworthy?
いいのか、兄貴。シャノンちゃんもいるんだろ。
だからといって僕は座して婚約者が殺されるのを待ちはしないよ。僕が恐ろしいのはおじい様にシャノンが殺されるかもしれないことに、僕の婚約者に恐怖を味わわせたクソじじいを君らが僕より先にぶん殴っちまうことだけさ。
なるほどな。 確かにこいつは次期当主が誰かを決めるってテストらしいぜ。
だな、クソジジイの顔面に一番最初に拳をお見舞いしたやつが次の当主だぜ。
George, Butler, and Jessica each forcefully nodded their heads and put their fists together. For now, I'm just gonna believe and assume that the cousins are all innocently nice people. Then Jessica headed off to her own room as designated. Her form disappeared into the darkness of the rose garden, which was shaking in the violent winds. As they saw her off, George and Butler hardened their trembling fists. Jessica's back was watched through the window by Maria, who had remained upstairs. Her expression was blank.
みんなは何を息巻いてるのかな。ベアトリーチェが蘇ればみんな生き返らせてもらえるのにね。
Jessica's form had already been completely swallowed up by the darkness. I think that Maria is probably... I don't think she really understands it. That's why she says it like that. At the time, the phone began to ring again. Butler and George heard it and came clamoring back, but Maria picked up the receiver right away.
もしもし。マリア様ですか？シャノンです。ジョージ様に代わっていただけますか？
This time, it was Shannon on the phone. And the purpose of the message was to tell the next person, George, where he was to go. Oh? No way! End of this chapter? No way! That's too short. The next head, 1111. Oh, I don't like this sound. You know, I'm gonna continue. I'm supposed to end, but I'm gonna continue. I can't end off on this kind of cliffhanger. Oh, I don't like the music. It goes without saying, but since the time she was born, Jessica was raised in this mansion. The Western-style house that a cousin simply called the mansion was her home. And yet she had never understood her cousin's feelings as much as she did today. And at the same time, her own home, which she knew well, had never felt a different place as it did now. Her own room. This had once been her personal hideaway, the only place in this vast mansion where she could feel at peace. However, that door had never felt as intimidating as it did now.
テストだって。一体何が待ち受けてやがるんだ。まさか私の机とか引っかき回してねえだろうな。
She acted tough, trying to deceive herself, trying to make herself believe that she wasn't scared of anything. She readied herself and opened a door to her room. Oh god. I'm scared. I don't know what's behind. I'm sure it's nothing. Oh, the darkness is off-putting. Nothing? When she saw that, fortunately, the room didn't appear to have been messed with, she relaxed. No one was there. Of course. There was no one or nowhere for anyone to hide here. Right away, Jessica locked the door behind her. Now the room was safe. I wonder if this is how episode 2's murder is going to be explained. She locked the door. Anyway, she peeked under the bed in the closet, but of course, no one was hiding.
なんだってんだ。
She looked at the clock. 10 past 11 or just a little past that. As her tension lessened and fatigue came back to her entire body, she realized how messed up this whole day had been. It was still only 11. The plan had been for all the cousins to get together, have fun playing around, and talked animatedly about all kinds of things together into the night. Normally, we would have been doing that kind of stuff at this very moment. Why has that turned into this?
全部あのクソジジイのせいだ。よくもクラウさんをみんなを。
Her head was swimming with anger and sadness, but there was no one here to direct those emotions at. Because of the lock, this room's security was guaranteed, or so we would like to believe. Remembering that one more time, Jessica somehow regained her calm. If it keeps up like this and nothing happens, Jessica thought that she would like to go to the dining hall and see her mother's last face. Even though Gohda had emphasized so strongly that it was gruesome and that she definitely shouldn't look at it, even so, she wanted to see her mother's face one final time. But they had been warned repeatedly that doing anything stupid would put the hostages in danger. Could it be that locking the room was also against the rules? If I close myself up in here, I alone might be saved. But if I don't open it, it will surely be against the rules, and that Ken-kun, Shannon, Auntie Kyrie, and Dr. Nanjo will be killed. There's no way the scales balance between 5 lives and my own 1 life. Jessica tightly shut her eyes, resisting the other part of herself which said, "Isn't it alright as long as I survive?" Headed to the door and made to unlock it. Oh, just then. Oh no. Clap, clap, clap. Oh no. A crisp applause rang out, making Jessica's heart leap.
鍵をかけたままならルール違反ということになり、人質たちにも危害が及ぶかもしれません。
How did Renove come in here? He must have crawled in through the window.
しかしそれでも自分の命だけは助かるかもしれない。しかしあなたはその誘惑に耐え、自ら鍵を開けようとした。そのあなたの勇気は称賛に値しますよ。
I, the owner of this room, had searched to make sure there was nowhere any human could have been hiding. Where had this man... There was nowhere for a human to hide. But could something that wasn't human have managed it? I was pretty sure this was my first meeting with this largely built, middle-aged man. I didn't recognize this guy who looked like a butler and bore the seal of the one-winged eagle.
はじめまして、ジェシカ様。私は親方様より家具頭を任されております。72柱の27位、ロの上と申します。
ロの上、ケンジさん。
Ah, this is what it was, right?
ああ、源氏は私の弟のような存在。
Right, cause someone pointed this out about Renove's name and Genji, cause I didn't know Genji's name, but Renoue and Renove, really similar, right? Made me wonder about who else could have this similarity with, but I don't think I found any, at least not the last time I checked it, but interesting stuff.
あるいはこの世界における私の正しい姿だったのかもしれません。
True form? What is he talking about? What is he on about? Wait. What? But they both existed at the same time? What?
より白だったと言っても良いでしょうな。
A vessel. Maybe in the same way Kumasawa and Virgilia are kind of like the same person. They really do act very similar.
何を言ってんだ
Wait,
こいつ。
but I did say similarities, but Renove and Genji don't really act very similar.
おっと、これは失礼しました。人間には話しても理解できぬ話。それでは本題に移りましょう。
クソジジイの言うテストとかいうやつだな。
さようでございます。こちらが親方様がジェシカ様に賜われましたテストでございます。
Which one? What? at Renove's elegant gesture, like that of a butler ordering for the meal to be set out. Many gold butterflies flew out of nowhere. The swarm of gold butterflies spun around, forming a small swirl as they gathered in one place. Then the golden mound disappeared like a pile of leaves blown away by a cold, wintry wind, and there lay a western envelope with a one-winged eagle crest down on it in gold leaf. Renove gestured to her to pick it up. Jessica timidly picked it up and opened a letter inside.
非常にシンプルな次期当主の資格を探るテストでございます。そこに記されている問いに、どうか後宮家を担う次期当主としての心構えで臨んでいただき、答えとそれに至ったお考えをお聞かせください。
I'm very curious what the question is. Shaking, Jessica looked back and forth between the paper and Renove's face several times. At that time, George, who had been called out after Jessica, could be seen in the arbor of the rose garden. He had been planning to give Shannon a ring that would be proof of their engagement here, tonight, at this time if things had gone normally. But the woman in front of George was not Shannon. Gap?
読みなさい。
Got it.
それがゴールドスミスからあなたに与えられるテストよ。
George picked up the western envelope on the table where he had once drunk tea with Shannon and read its contents. Perhaps its message was short. After a single glance at it, George's eyes grew sharp.
なんだい?
A short sentence. Maybe even the same one that Angie and the other descendants received?
これは
見ての通りよ。それがあなたに与えられる次期当主の資格を探るテスト。次期当主としての資格を自らに問いながら、その問いに答えなさい。
Ask yourself what makes you qualified as you answer the question.
なんてバカな問題だ。
What a stupid question. I'm really struggling to think about what this question could be.
そうね。本当にバカな問題ね。なら、ゴールドスミスにとっての後宮家の家督なんて、その程度のものなんじゃない？
So it's a very simple to answer question? George lowered his eyes to the surface of the letter once again and examined its contents. George and Jessica, while the tests given to them were slightly different, they were almost exactly the same.
以下に掲げる3つのうち2つを得るために1つを生贄に捧げよ
う。簡単な3択じゃない。どれを見殺しに選ぶか自ら決めなさい。選択を拒めばテストは中断。私の手であなたをこの場で殺してしまってもいいって許可をもらってるわ。それさえも選択肢に含めるなら4択ね。私、君みたいなこと遊ぶのはずいぶん久しぶりだから、それも嫌いじゃないわよ。
この3択はあくまでもテストなのか、それとも選択は結果を伴うのか。
Or will the choice be accompanied by its results? What does he mean?
何を甘えてるの？君が選択したものは必ず命を落とす。
Picking from people. Is that what it is? Oh god. Among the 3 mentioned below, in order to gain 2, sacrifice 1. 1, your life. 2, Shannon's life. 3, everyone else's lives. Oh, I see. But Shannon's life is technically part of everyone else's lives. If you do not choose one, all of the above will be lost.
どうしてシャノンの名がここにあるんだ。
2番目の選択肢にはそのものが最も必要とする愛する者の名が。ジェシカへのテストの2番にはカノンって書かれているはずだわ。
Then I'm so curious, what is Battler's? Would it be Kyrie?
このバカな問題をジェシカにも出したのかい。
In the end, they're telling you to kill yourself, no?
ジェシカのことなんかどうでもいいでしょ。今試されているのはあなたの。
It's kind of like, I guess, a version of like the prisoner's dilemma, maybe. But in this case, all the options are so bad. Even if everyone agreed to kill themselves to save everyone else, they would still lose their lives. But if one person choose to save themselves, everyone else dies.
実に簡単な3択だわ。他の2つのためにどれを捨てられるかということよ。簡単でしょ。
Easy, she says. Simple, she says. What will you do? What would I do? I don't know. I don't know.
それでも決まらないならコインでも貸してあげようかしら。
コイン2面しかないものでどうやって3択を。
Oh, good question, George.
自分の命を捨てられる者がいるわけがないとなればおのずと残る選択肢は2つになる。愛する者のために全ての人間を諦めるか、一人でも多くを救うために愛する者一人を諦めるか。どっちにももっともらしい大義名分がつけられるわ。だって今やこの六軒島は悪魔の島ですもの。人間の世界の甘ったるい馴れ合いなんて必要ないの。誰も責めないわ。あなたの心の赴くままに。
I'm still trying to figure out if there are real consequences to this.
後宮家の家督を継ぐにふさわしい資格が自らにあるかを問いながら、いいえ、自らが後宮家当主であると思って選択なさい。
Oh, as though you are the head. I mean, honestly, thinking about Kinzo, if his letter had Beatrice's name on it, you know he's gonna sacrifice everyone else. Jessica crumpled the letter up and threw it on the floor.
お怒りはごもっともと思いますよ。私も非常にお気の毒で、それでいて実に滑稽な出題だと思います。
自分から死にたいと願う人間なんているもんか。そして愛する人の命を見捨てて生き残りたいと思う人間なんているもんか。そして自分たちだけ良ければ他の人間全てを見殺しにできる人間なんて。
いいえ、ジェシカ様、いても良いのでございますよ。
Kinzo.
ここは六軒島、悪魔の島。今や人間の世界から完全に切り取られ、魔界のどっぷりチーズフォンデュのように沈んでおります。人の世の価値観など次の燃えないゴミの日に出してしまいますとですからどうかジェシカ様が心より欲するものを順にお選びください。その結果残ったものがこの狂った今宵にふさわしきジェシカ様の回答となりましょう。
ふざけるな。こんなのどれも選べるものかよ。
いずれも選ばねば上記のすべてを失う立派な第四の選択肢でございます。それを選ばれるのもまた一興でございましょう。ただそれを選び結局自らの命を落とされるなら 潔く一番の自分の命を選び、他の二つを救われた方が賢明かと思いますよ。全てはジェシカ様の選択に委ねられます。どうぞ後ろ宮家の跡継ぎにふさわしい回答とその信念をお聞かせくださいます。この炉の上、親方様の血を引きし末裔にふさわしき素晴らしい回答を心より期待いたしております。
They're all so messed up. That scene was being observed through a magic crystal ball being held by Kinzo. Sorry, a magic crystal ball. Kinzo finally couldn't hold it back. Spreading his arms and facing the heavens, he began laughing in an explosive voice.
何を迷うか、愚かなる孫たちよ、我が末裔たちよ。即答できる簡単な問題ではないか。朝のトーストにバターを塗るかジャムを塗るかより迷わぬ選択であるというのに、お前たちには正しい答えがわかるか？
I'm gonna guess his correct answer is to sacrifice everyone else. He turned and stared wide-eyed at the Chester sisters, who had been faithfully standing in wait behind him.
申し訳ございません。私にはわかりません。ゴールドスミス卿。
愚か者め、選べもせぬとはな。自らの生きる理由も目的も見出せん愚かなウサギめ。貴様など誰にも気づかれずに踏み潰されて生を終えるアリ一匹ほどの価値もないわ。死ね、潰れろ。私が瞬きしている間に消えてなくなれ。お前はどうか。
私は一番の自分の命を生贄とするであります。武具は戦い、知ってこそであります。そして武具は敵を撃ち滅ぼし味方を守るためにある。愛する者たちを守って死ねるなら本望であります。
Spoken like a true furniture answer, I guess.
ほう、武具らしい実に見事な模範回答よ。即答、大いに結構。そう答えれば人参が一本余計にもらえると教えられてきたのか。違うよな。
Actually, I just realized that Double O has a scar or a wound on her bunny ear.
それすらも違うよな。そう聞かれたらそう答えようと、お前はただ吹き込まれた通りに答えたに過ぎない。お前も今のウサギと同じだ。自分の生きる理由と目的を未だに見出せずに生きている。生きる価値なきクズめ。貴様など潰されて他の家畜の餌にでもなるのがお似合いよ。
はっ、家畜の餌光栄であります。
違うだろう。もう誰も死ぬところを見たくないんだろう。それがなぜ認められぬのか。認めろよ。お前の古傷の奥の奥が未だに産んで腐っていることを。
What is he on about?
不臭にて鼻が曲がりそうであるわ。愚かなる腐れウサギめ。お前にはこれが褒め言葉である。
ありがとうございますであります。
さて最後のお前はどうか。この3択から何を選ぶ？
にひ、迷うことなく当然に。
おお、2番。愛する者を生贄に捧げることを胸を張って選べる者は多くない。訳を聞かせよ。
愛する者はいつかいなくなるからです。愛する者がいなければ傷つかないし、いなくてもいつかまた誰かを愛せるかもしれない。だから 今愛してるものなんて大した価値はないのですに。
Somehow I should have expected this answer from this one.
にひ
なるほど、それでそういう回答になるわけか。愛に傷ついたがゆえに臆病になったウサギよ。ウサギは寂しさで死ぬと聞いたが、お前の心は一体いつ殺されたというのか。
Kinzo will never be satisfied with any answer.
ならばウサギよ、問いを変えよう。2番の選択肢を愛するものではなく、そなたが愛したものの思い出に変えようではないか。どうかこれでももう一度選べるか。何が愛してるものに大した価値はないだ、愚かなウサギよ。自らの愛の深さにも向かい合えぬクズめ。選んでみよ。愛したものを忘れられると選んでみや。選べるだろう。選べるものな。
And speaking like Beatrice.
ほら、選べるって言ってみろよ。
選べるであります。
Oh goodness, even she's crying.
選べるであります。
ゴールドスミス卿、それくらいでどうかお許しを。
もうよいわ、クズウサギどもめ。お前たちはワルギリアのところへ行き、地下牢の見張りを手伝うのだ。消えよ。
The Siester sisters, their old emotional wounds gouged, disappeared as though running away. After that, even though there was no one left to hear him, Kinzo continued talking as though continuing a play.
と、このように愉快なテストなわけだ。実のところを言えば、これが正解という選択肢はない。むしろどの答えであろうともよどみなく素早く、そして確固たる信念と揺るがぬ強き自らの意志で選べるかどうか、その理由と意志の方が重要なのだ。私はそれを知りたいのだよ。ああ、我が末裔たちよ。お前たちはどのような答えを見せてくれるのか、実に楽しみだ。私か。
No one talked to you, Kinzo. Why are you answering?
ああ、もちろん同じ問いを突きつけられたことがあったとも。
Really?
その悪魔の問いに見事答えたからこそ、私は黄金と名誉とあの魔女を我が物とすることができたのだよ。私が選んだ答えはどれか言うまでもないよな。
I wonder if it's number 2 or number 3.
さて、そろそろ答えは決まりましたでしょうか？
As Jessica stared at the crushed letter which lay on the floor, she hung her head in constant silence. All that filled the room was the sound of wind and the rain, and the rustling of treetops. Regardless of how noisy that was, it simply made the silence more apparent. Renove waited for Jessica's answer. However, Jessica didn't speak. Whether she was deep in thought or had stopped thinking, Renove couldn't tell. No, he might have actually have known. But cruelly like a demon, Renove urged Jessica to voice it.
どれも選べないというなら、そのお命、せめて痛みがないよう安らかに頂戴させていただきますが。
Huh?
はい、聞 こえかねました。もう一度お願いできますかな。
Jessica lifted her face and looked straight into Renove's eyes. It seemed that she had decided on her answer.
殺せよ。
Ah. Jessica said it one more time, clearly. Perhaps Renove had imagined from the very beginning that this would be the answer. Without any surprise, he smiled lightly and nodded.
ジェシカ様ならそのお答えを選ぶと思っておりました。さて、このテストはどの選択肢が正解不正解というものではありません。重要なのはどのような考えを経てその答えに至ったか。さあ、ジェシカ様の、そして次期当主としての心構えを持ってそれをお答えください。
別に死にたくて1番目を選んだわけじゃないさ。2番のカノン君を死なせること、こんなのもちろん論外だから除外。3番のその他みんなの命、こんなのももちろん論外だから除外。そしたら1番目の選択肢しか残らなかった。
So she made her choice based on the process of elimination.
消去法ですか。積極的にお選びになったわけではないと。
After chuckling slightly, Renove dropped his gaze. A human couldn't even imagine what kind of answer a demon would have been hoping for. All she could understand was that this was apparently slightly below Renove's expectations.
悪くはありませんが、良くもない回答です。60点というところでしょうか。少し失望しましたよ。
自信を持って選べみたいなこと言っておいて、そうしてやったら失望とは自分勝手な野郎だぜ。
I'm gonna hazard a guess and say it's probably because of her passively choosing her answer rather than proactively choosing like what Renove was talking about.
消去法というだけではないようですね。いずれにせよ落第点ですが、もう少しお考えがあるようだ。
Failing grade 60 is a fail?
伺いましょう。
死にたくないさ。だから1番なんて誰だって選びたくない。人は幸せに生きたくて生の限りをあがいてるんだぜ。だから本当はまず1番目なんてありえないはずなんだ。
しかしあなたは1番目の選択肢、自分の命を捨てることを選んだ。その選択肢しか
一応それぞれの選択肢を選んだ後の未来のことを考えてみたぜ。
ほう、いかがでしたか。
まずカノン君を死なせてみた。私は自分の大好きな人を見捨ててまで生きる残りの生涯を想像してみた。
それはどんな生涯でしたか。
生きるにも値しない最低の女だった。いつまでも自らの選択を悔やみ、ただ後悔だけのために生きる大好きな人を見捨てて生きることを選んだ最低の女なんて私には許せない。私が自ら引導を渡してやる。
勇ましい。では3番目の選択肢も考えられたのでは。
あ、私とカノン君以外の全員を死なせても見た。カノン君はそんな私を好きになるはずはない。そして私もまた、いくらカノン君がいてもそのために見捨てた大勢の命が生涯十字架となってのしかかってきた。そしてその十字架はカノン君にまでのしかかった。私はカノン君に十字架を背負わせるために愚かな選択肢を選んだりはしない。もしそんなことをする私がいたなら、私はその未来の私を許さない。その女にも私が引導を渡してやる。
Jessica had pictured it in her mind, a future her beyond each of the three choices. There were 3 Jessicas. One of the 3, or of the 3, 2 had regrets. Only one could hold her head high and smile at Canon.
私さ、生意気にもカノン君に説教したことがあるぜ。自分の人生を思い切り生きてみろみたいなことを。
自分の人生を思い切り生きる。味わいある言葉ですね。それは意外にとても難しいものです。
だからさ、私が胸を張ってカノン君に見せなきゃならないんだよ。胸を張ってお天道様を真正面から見て思い切り笑顔でいられる生き方ってやつを。
あなたの自己犠牲をカノンは受け入れられるでしょうか。あなたの身勝手な選択が余計に彼を傷つけてしまうことには思いが至りませんか。
だから伝言を頼みたい。
お聞きはしますが、何しろ私は悪魔です。約束は守らないかもしれませんよ。
守って約束。
Jessica spoke that looking quite unconcerned. She had asked the demon who was about to take her life to pass on a message, and she wasn't thinking for a moment that she would be betrayed. At that extremely innocent smile, Renovi closed his eyes lightly and shrugged his shoulders. So she is going to die.
いいでしょう。それで彼に何と伝えればよろしいですか。
カノン君の思いっきりの人生を生きて。ちょっと違う。カノン君のじゃない。
What? Oh, I see. His real name? I'm getting chills.
本当の名前は未だに教えてもらえないけど、本当のカノン君の人生を思いっきり生きて、そう伝えて。
お嬢様。
ジェシカ、お前というやつを。
炉の上は気まぐれですから、伝言をしなかった可能性もありました。幸運でしたね。私がこの光景を見せていて。
A musty, 3-sided mirror was set beyond the bars, and the scene with Jessica was reflected on it. On the next mirror was the scene with George reflected in the same way. None of them questioned how a 3-sided mirror had appeared from a group of butterflies, or why Jessica and George were reflected on it, because the reflected sides themselves were more important.
そこまでこいつのために命をも投げ出せるというのか。
申し訳ありません。
Krauss looked at Cannon with a complicated expression that had an awkward smile mixed in. Cannon couldn't meet his eyes.
ワルギリア様、お嬢様が命を落とされることはありません。僕を殺してください。2番目の選択肢に変えてください。
Oh God.
それで全ては丸く収まるはずです。
その願いを私に叶えることはできませんよ。これはジェシカの選んだ自らの選択なのですから。
Suddenly, the air split, and the Chester sisters appeared, flying to Virgilia's chest. Never thought I would see 410 cry like this.
私だって頑張ってるのであります。潰して家畜の餌とかあんまりであります。
Still without a clue what was going on, Virgilia was smothered by the sobbing Chester sisters.
はいはい、大丈夫ですよ、大丈夫ですよ。泣かないで泣かないで。美味しいお紅茶を入れてあげますからね。お前たち、ここの見張りを任せます。不審な真似をしたらすぐに知らせるのですよ。
The goat attendants all looked at each other and nodded their heads. Virgilia took the Chester sisters and left. The sound of people going up a set of stairs could be heard, so they had probably gone to an upper floor. Oh, that is a creepy sight.
このヤギ頭どもは頭が悪いみたい。うまく騙せないかしら。
Kyrie realized that an opportunity had arrived, but she still hadn't thought of a way to break the metal bars. The Jessica reflected on the three-sided mirror closed her eyes as though she had given up. The way she had both hands stuck into her pockets, wanting to be defiant until the very end, might have been her own kind of aesthetics.
私の言い分は以上だ。殺せよ。
わかりました。それでは。
Oh God.
ご安心を。あなたへの死はどんな眠りよりも優しく慈悲深いものにいたします。
Renove raised his palm as he slowly approached Jessica. Huh? God. Sorry, didn't mean to laugh at this. I was just so taken aback by the sudden change of pace. Realizing that his daughter would be killed, Krauss repeatedly body slammed the metal bars, going half mad. The goats looked like they were sneering at how a mere human didn't stand a chance at breaking those bars. And true, Krauss's pointless efforts might have been comical, but Krauss was giving it everything he had. As Jessica's father, he was living in that moment with everything he had so that he could save her. Kennen made tight fists with both hands. If he used his cursed power, he might be able to cut through even metal bars. But there were a full 3 goats. There was no way he could defeat 3 of them in an instant. It would instantly be reported, and then Virgilia and even the Chester sisters would dash in. Though he may be able to break the bars, he could do nothing more. It was useless. Kennen knew already that the witch was sneering at that kind of useless effort, so he could do nothing but stare at Krauss's repeated body slams.
庄司様。
Shannon, who had been looking at the three-sided mirror, let out a voice. He looked to see that George, who had been silent this whole time, had raised his head. It seemed that George had also decided on an answer.
Kimatta? Kimi no kotae.
ああ、決まったよ。
それは揺るぎない答
ああ、揺るぎないね。
えなら聞かせてもらうわ。ああ、ちなみにジェシカはどうも自分の命を差し出すことを選んだようよ。まさか優柔不断な君も同じ答えを選んだって言うんじゃないでしょうね。
ジェシカはジェシカの答えを出したのさ。それがどの選択であろうとも、それはジェシカの答えだ。僕の答えに何も干渉しないよ。
そうなら改めて聞くわ。以下に掲げる3つのうち2つを得るために1つを生贄に捧げよ。1、自分の命。2、シャノンの命。3、それ以外の全員の命。あなたが選んだのはどれ？まさかジェシカと同じ1番？
違うね。
Oh my goodness, what? Gap looked a little surprised, because she had thought that a timid-looking man like this would never choose any other option. You know, I was expecting something like this. Deep in my heart, I was expecting this, but I didn't voice it out loud. But it is still just a tiny bit unexpected. But let's see. I don't know what his answer could be.
ならよかったわ。私にとって一番退屈な選択肢が外れてくれてよかった。
Imagine he says all of the above.
じゃあ、まさかとは思うけど、2番シャノンの命を見捨ててみせる？
まさか今夜まさに婚約指輪を贈ろうという相手をどうして僕が？
これは大胆だわ。それが君の答えなの。
そうさ。僕の答えは3番さ。
God. Good God. George had chosen the third choice. Everyone else's lives. Even Gap hadn't been able to imagine that answer. She had been sure that he'd choose number 1 just like Jessica. So she became interested in how he had reached that answer. How he had reached an answer that had defied the imagination of the 33rd ranked demon of the 72.
聞かせてほしいわ。自分と愛する婚約者だけが無事で、それ以外の全てを犠牲にできる境地というのを。あなたもジェシカと同じで消去法というやつ？
違うね。はっきりこれしか僕には選択肢がないのさ。
So the only reason that Gap and Renove and everyone else can keep in contact with each other is, I'm pretty sure, because they have wiretaps, not wiretaps, so what do you call that? They have some device, like walkie-talkies or something. I'm like pretty sure.
自分さえ良ければいいと？愛する女と引き換えに世界を犠牲にできると？
君は何を言っているんだい？
何？
George faced the demon as he spoke, looking at her almost in disbelief.
僕は今夜ここにシャノンを呼び出し、婚約の証である指輪を渡すつもりだった。僕とシャノンの婚約を祝福しない者もきっと多いだろう。僕は彼女との婚約を宣言することで親族すべてを敵に回すと僕にはあるんだよ。この島に訪れたその時から。いや違う、彼女に婚約したいと打ち明けたその時からね。
結婚さえできれば他の何もかも犠牲にできると？
結婚とは自分は生涯妻の味方であり続けるということだ。僕にはその時点で彼女のために世界の全てを敵に回す覚悟があるんだ。
Those words through the three-sided mirror also reached Shannon's ears, and his determination reached her eyes. Shannon certainly had arranged with George that tonight she would be given an engagement ring. Then this incident had occurred and she hadn't been able to receive the ring. But now, even though it wasn't the form of a ring, Shannon had received something even greater. And as proof of that, a single tear of the same sparkle as a diamond dripped down.
それは何とも振るった答えだことね。なるほど。よく考えたら君にこれは気楽な選択肢だわ。だって君の両親は第一の晩にすでに殺されちゃってるんだもんね。今さら君にとって死んで困る人間は誰もい
ない。That is pretty cruel though.
なるほどね。これは簡単な選択だったわ。
何とでも言うがいい。これが僕の、そして僕の次期当主としての覚悟と選択だ。
The sparkle in George's eyes was brilliant and sharp. For just an instant, Gap felt the same sense of intimidation that Kinzo exuded and was slightly overpowered.
なるほど。ゴールドスミスと同じ答え。君もあどけなさそうな顔して将来はとんだ悪魔になるわけね。
I have no doubt about that George is different.
なんだ、私たちとてもうまくやれそうじゃない。君がゴールドスミスの後を継ぐ。そしてやがては私は召喚され君に仕えることもあるかもしれない。それも案外面白いかもしれないわね。
Gap needed to change her opinion of George. This man bore determination and resolve unimaginable from his outward appearance, and had not adopted that just now, but he had possessed it since the very beginning.
僕には今すぐ当主を継承する覚悟がある。 いや違うね。君はこのテストを当主として考えろと言った。だから僕は自分が当主であると前提して答えたんだ。
He certainly gave this more thought than Jessica may have given it.
いや、それすら違う。当主そのものとして考えた。僕は今後宮家の当主なんだ。
Wow. Even Gap is taken aback by it.
見事だわ。そこまで言えるなんてね。君はどうやらかなりの大物だわ。バトラとマリアのテストはまだだけど、私は君が合格でいい気がする。でもその答えがかけねなしの本当のものならね。
Just curious, but does it mean that only one of them will pass?
僕の覚悟を疑うというのか。
君が選んだ選択肢を実行できる？今すぐ自らの手でこの島に存在する全ての命を生贄に捧げることができる？
I'm almost certain that's what Kinzo did. Maybe at the earthquake. Maybe that day. I'm almost certain. I don't know.
自らの手でよ。
できるね。
Oh god.
その覚悟はあると僕は何度も言っている。
ならば今すぐゲストハウスに戻り、バトラとマリアを殺しなさい。
Will he do it? Oh my goodness.
それが終わったら他の人質たちも連れてきてあげる。君の手でシャノン以外の全員をその目の前で処刑してみせるのよ。
Oh god.
できるんでしょ？
できるね。僕の覚悟は君程度のそれとはレベルが違う。
I can't tell if he's actually serious or he's feigning the resolve. I don't know.
ならば実行しなさい。全てに死を。新しき後宮家の当主としてこの血塗られた儀式の遂行を。
Start with Gap.
了解したよ。
Start with Gap and then kill Kinzo next.
実行する。僕は今やもう後宮家の当主だ。
It's a coronation music.
ええ、そうよ。自らの手でその玉座を赤く染めなさい。君は悪魔たちを滑る魔界の王となる。
Gap was now sure. This man was truly fitting to succeed Kinzo's madness. I am very, very curious.
吹けよ嵐、鳴らせよ雷鳴。新しき魔王の誕生を祝うがいい。悪魔の島は今新しい王を迎えた。
Well, first Eva and now Eva's son George. In response to the demon's call, the tempest raged more and more. Then a massive lightning bolt fell, its tearing thunder and brilliant light creating a feeling of just a moment of silence.
でさ、その殺害の順番だけど僕が決めていいわけだよね。
I feel like he's setting something up.
どうぞご自由に。新しき六軒島の魔王陛下、あなたの御心の赴くままに。
とりあえずさ、その一番目が君になるわけだけどいいかな。
I knew it. I knew it.
え？
A gust of wind blew, stirring up George's jacket as though it was a cloak. It was very much like the cloak worn by the head. It definitely gave the same impression of grandeur. At that time, Gap certainly saw the storm wiped away and the sky covered with a pure white and vast full moon. Bearing the full moon on his back, a man who called himself the new head sneered at the demon.
後宮家親族の全ての命さえも今や僕の財産だ。それに損害を出してくれた賠償、安くは済まないよ。まさか僕の両親に夏日おばさん、ルドルフおじさん、ローザおばさん、そして源氏さんの命を奪っておいて、 この僕が見逃すと本気で思ってるのかい？
はは生意気よ。
What? No. Renove had been intending to press his palm against Jessica's chest and stop her heart. But a short distance away, his hand had stopped. He sensed something. What? He's dead? On the carpet at their feet, plop plop, small red flowers bloomed one after another. The seeds of those flowers had fallen down from high above, all the way from Jessica's fists, held up as though to strike the heavens. What? I don't understand. Renove's nose was stained red with spurting blood, and those drops were dripping onto the carpet by Jessica, right?
ちなみにさっきのは乙女としての回答な。次期当主としての回答は別だぜ。
Oh, wow.
お伺いします。
大好きな人も家族も親族もみんな私が守る。私が当主ならそれは私の責務だ。
And new fancy music too.
お父さんは威張ってるだけじゃない。私や母さんを守ってた。後宮家を受け継ぐ重圧ってやつと何十年も戦ってた。
Oh, this is so awesome.
だからわかるぜ。次期当主ってのはな、軽くねえんだよ。だからさ、捨てられるんだよ。自分の命くらい。
Jessica knew. She knew that her father, in order to protect his family, was even now bluffing and fighting a solitary fight. Jessica understood something that his back had been telling her. Another left straight was buried into Renove's face. That mighty strike wasn't due to just, oh god, brass knuckles she was using. It was a strike of a person, a family head, who could throw everything away in order to protect.
父さんが次期当主の資格を失ったなら、順当に次の当主は私が継承するぜ。後宮家当主。これ以上好きにさせるほどふぬけちゃいねえぜ。
Man, look at all these new expressions we're getting this episode.
素晴らしい回答です。先ほどの点数を改めましょう。その回答に10点プラス、見事な左ストレートに10点プラス。
ってことは、あと20点プラスで100点満点だな。
I'm starting to think Renove likes to be hit. I don't know. 2 more? Renove backflipped away from her and violently wiped away the blood pouring from his nose. If he's bleeding, doesn't that mean he's human? It had become not blood, but petals of a red rose. What? The blood on his face was wiped off, and in its place was a grin from a great delight which he had last felt so many centuries ago that he could no longer remember just how long it had been.
ジェシカ様の覚悟は何点に値するかどうか、この世の上試させていただきます。
うぜえぜ、かかってきやがれ！
Oh, Jessica is so awesome. Oh? What? Beneath George's feet, a pitch-black pit suddenly opened its mouth wide. Of course, George had no way of resisting. After being swallowed up by it, George fell out of a pitch-black hole that had opened up in the ceiling of the arbor. As George fell down, what a scene! He was hit sharply in the gut like a precision bee strike by a reverse roundhouse kick from a stiletto heel. Launched out of the arbor the instant George thought that he was about to be swallowed up by a rosebush. Another pitch-black hole opened there and swallowed George up. And this time, a pitch-black hole opened in front of Gap at her feet, splitting or spitting a defenseless George out of it. By that time, Gap had already finished the preparatory motions for the next reverse roundhouse kick. Oh goodness. Oh goodness. Right side of the head, below the right armpit, right side of the right knee. As Gap danced and spun like a small cyclone, she kept hitting him. Right foot, left foot, left foot with successive roundhouse kicks. The fourth one became a sweep, cutting George's feet out from under him and making him fall down. But of course, there was no floor there, but a pitch black hole, and George was swallowed up once again. Gap once again spun around like a small cyclone. George, likewise, was once again sped out from the ceiling of the arbor.
食らって噛みしめなさい。奈落の終点が一撃。死ね！
Whoa. It's raining! And it's all like becoming one big fight between the demons and the cousins. Awesome and unexpected, but still kind of crazy. But anyway, the sharp strike of the queen bee pierced the heavens like a rising cyclone. It kicked through George's abdomen as he fell from the ceiling. And then, time froze. George was pinned in midair by Gap's raised leg. Still pinned in midair, George moaned. Then Gap, with George still hung up on her foot, grinned.
認めてあげるわ。君の態度だけは一人前よ。でも、力が伴わなきゃダメだわ。知ってる？この世を滑るには3つの力が必要だそうよ。
What is it? Money? Money and... I don't know.
一つは権力。一つは財力。最後は何か知ってる？
If the first is influence, second is well, what is the last kind? A sense of humor, maybe?
本で読んだよ。暴力だろ。
正解。君にはそれが足りないわ。
Gap finally released George by kicking him upwards one more time, adding in another roundhouse kick and smashing him into a pillar. Oh god.
権力を伴わない王者にも、財力を伴わない王者にも、そして暴力を伴わない王者にも、人は誰も恐れない。
But that's if you want them to fear you, right? Fear is not effective in leading.
金蔵はその3つを兼ね備えたわ。だからこそ、暴君として君臨した。
Yeah, that's right. He's a tyrant.
君も金蔵の後継者を名乗るならば、その貫禄を見せてごらんなさい。ほら、いつまで寝ているの？立ちなさい。じゃないとまた落ちるわよ。
悪くない動きですよ。しかしレディーには少々ふさわしくないかと存じますよ。
いや
ー That is awesome for Jessica.
ひょろひょろとちょこまかと反撃してこねえのかよ。なめてんのか、うぜえやつ。
Renove was dodging skillfully, jumping back and avoiding Jessica's fists. But he still wasn't striking back himself. Because of his agile movements, as swift as a flag whipping around in strong winds, Jessica's fists wasn't even able to touch him. Amidst a feeling of her blood running hot, Jessica regained her offensive composure. Even though this room was large for a bedroom, it was too small an area to keep up such an exaggerated dodges for long. She calmly realized that and started using not just her fist, but her legs as well.
と、ボクシングは腕でやるだけのうちは半人前です。腕は熱く吠えたける獅子のように、そして足は冷たく獲物を狙って追い詰める蛇のように。
蛇に足はねえぜ。
確かに。
Jessica began cornering Renove towards the wall with perfect footwork. She wouldn't let him get around her. Renove's magnificent dodges looked flashy, but they needed sufficient room. Once cornered, he wouldn't be able to dodge anymore. Jessica had a good understanding of the special characteristics of her equipped weapon, the brass knuckles. This powerful weapon's most notable characteristics was how it didn't let the opponent defend. Even if they blocked with their arm, that arm would receive direct damage. If it hit the wrong way, it might even break the bone. So she pressed him forward. She would block off his escape routes, and then, with this fist, she would chip this demon down.
おっとおやいつも
ようやく追い詰めたぜ。みんなを捕らえている場所はどこだ。クソジジイのいる場所はどこだ。洗いざらい喋ったらそのヒゲをむしり取るだけで勘弁してやるぜ。
Ripping that mustache off.
それは困ります。これでもセットに毎朝1時間をかけているのですから。
To set this, as in he pastes it on every day?
キブスの世話になったらそれもできねえな。
What an awesome scene. Renove had blocked Jessica's lunged fist with his arm. He tried to act as though it was no big deal, but it must have hurt a lot. Jessica grinned. Renove smiled the same way, but twitched slightly.
なるほど。これは確かに痛いですね。
最終勧告。泣いて詫びろ。
それはできませんね。キャラが崩れます。
ならお前が崩れ落ちるといいぜ。スルベ打ちだ。
Oh. Jessica's iron fists were pounded into Renove, but Jessica was startled. The impact felt wrong, and there was a sound of breaking glass, right? What happened? At a glance, it looked like Renove had caught Jessica's fists with his palm. That wasn't quite true. When Renove opened his hand, a faint purple glowing barrier like a glass shield appeared there, stopping the attack by a hair's breadth. Pulling herself together, Jessica struck out with her fist again, but with truly magnificent movements, Renove caught them all.
悪魔ですなんてこの程度の魔法くらいは。それにしてもなかなかやりますね。人間だったら私はここで降参だったでしょう。悪魔だからまだ戦い続けることができる。
Not your bullshit, Renove. You are probably human.
おかしな真似を。
Cheater is the right word.
それで終わりですか。攻撃を繰り出すばかりでご自身の防御がおろそかではありませんか。
Oh no. Renove pounded his palm into Jessica's stomach, stopping abruptly just a fraction away. Jessica was repelled by the purple shield, tumbled backwards, and smashed her head on the bed.
人間ごときに私のシールドは破れませんよ。もう二度と私の体に触れることができると思わぬことです。
ならよ、そのシールドごとぶち抜いてやるぜ。
不屈な方だ。その根性。なるほど。次期当主として実にふさわしい。もう少しお相手させていただきましょうかね。これも試験官の役得です。
砕けろ
Gap looked down on George, sneering. He was lying face down in a puddle on the rose garden path. The merciless rain beat down on him so that it looked as though even the heavens were mocking him.
立ちなさい。また落ちるわよ。
George stood up shakily. It seemed his spirit hadn't given in, but the damage to his body was fairly significant.
命乞いなさい。
No!
君のしていることは何も選ばない4番目の選択肢に同じ。君が選んだのは3番目の選択肢でしょ。両手両膝をついて詫びれば 私への比例を許してあげるわ。
I don't think it was rude though. What George said is true.
そしたら君を地下牢へ案内してあげる。そこで君は愛するシャノンと非力な自分のために他の人質たちを一人ずつ殺していくの。
I can't help but feel like if you are a demon, you're just killing powerless hostages one after another. Doesn't really display your force or your strength, right? It's not that great, I feel. Taking Gap out would be a lot better, I think.
できるわよね。その覚悟はあると君は豪語したわ。
George didn't answer, but his gaze was still obstinately resisting surrender.
あまり強情が過ぎると今度こそ奈落の底の底まで。
Gap's strength was undeniable. There was no doubt that Shannon's group, watching through that three-sided mirror, understood that. Perhaps, or probably even more clearly than George himself.
庄司様、もうやめて。私なんかのために。
姉さん、
私のことなんて好きにならなければジョージ様は誰とも戦わなくていいんでしょ。なら私なんて捨ててください。忘れてください。
There was no way for that voice to reach George. But even so, George answered.
嫌だね。僕は屈服しない。
へえ、どうして？
それが僕の覚悟だからだ。僕はシャノンのために全てと戦う。そして全てに認めさせ、全てに僕たちを祝福させ。
ねえ、聞かせて。どうしてあのシャノンとかいう家具のためにそこまで言えるの？あんなのただの出来損ないじゃない。給仕一つ満足にできないガラクタ家具だわ。
愛する女性への暴言を僕はそれ以上許さない。
だったら何？ひ弱な僕ちゃんが私にどう抗うというのかしら。
人を愛するとは強さだ。それを知ったから僕は強くなれた。シャノン、僕は君を愛している。その言葉だけで僕は何度でも立ち上がれるんだ。
シャノンは地下牢よ。私に愛を語られても。
いや、伝わった。それが愛だからだ。シャノンには今僕の言葉が聞こえているよ。そうだと信じられることこそが愛だ。
こいつ。
シャノン、君は家具なんかじゃない。家具だったとしても世界でただ一つの僕だけの家具だ。生涯僕と寄り添ってほしい。僕には君が永遠に必要だ。
庄司様、
焼けるわ。口説きならうちの人を超えたわね。
He surpassed Rudolph? No way.
若さですな。
愛が強さなら坊やはどうしてそんなにひ弱なの？その弱さがつまり君の愛の程度なわけね。婚約者への愛もひ弱、両親のあっけない死に様もひ弱。君の人生は何から何までひ弱だわ。
シャノンは僕に愛と強さを教えてくれた。もし君が僕の強さだけでシャノンへの愛を確かめようというのなら、僕の愛を教えよ
う。言うわね。なるほど。何度も蹴り倒されて転がされ、それでも立ち上がるのがシャノンからもらった強さだと。ならあっけなく殺されたあんたのお父さんとお母さんからは 何をもらったの？
Oh? What's happening? Suddenly there was a blackout. Outside? What? What do you mean?
違う。
Huh?
これは
The thing blocking Gap's vision was the bottom of George's shoe. Oh.
側頭蹴り、尾骨骨折。
He had stopped right in front of the tip of Gap's nose.
母さんにもらったものはこ
Oh.
の蹴りだ。
Her famous kick. After several moments' delay, Gap jumped back. Of course, it was too late. If George hadn't stopped, he would probably have caused exactly the damage he had announced.
そして父さんにもらったのが忍。
Oh, patience. Anger with a low boiling point isn't something to be truly feared. True anger is cultivated through patience.
君の暴力的意思表示は理解した。また婚約者と両親への名誉毀損も理解した。そしてそれを撤回する気がないんだね。
こいつ。
君の攻撃はもう十分に理解したから。
He was waiting it out.
そろそろいいかな。反撃して。
ほざくな、坊やの分際で。
A pitch black hole opened its mouth at George's feet. But George rapidly opened his legs, straddling the hole. The same move wouldn't work again. It was an extremely light dodge, and the upper part of his body didn't even quiver.
忍耐とは熱くならず冷静に相手の出方を研究することだ。何のために？決まってるじゃないか。わかるかい？
わかんないわよ。
反撃してきっちり借りを返し、二度とちょっかいを出したくないと思わせ、涙と鼻水で顔面をぐちゃぐちゃにして、それを拭うのを忘れて額を地面にこすりつけて何度も謝りたくなるほどに完膚なきまでに叩きのめすためだよ。
George dashed. Pits opened after one after another, but George would not step in them again. And because she persisted in that move, Gap was captured for a second time.
後ろ回し蹴り、顎部骨折。
Do it! Do it! Do it, George! It was stretched out more forcefully and beautifully than Gap's had been. Of course, while it centered directly on Gap's face, it stopped a hair's breadth away. Perhaps she couldn't rely on pitfalls at this close range. Gap kicked at George's shins as a diversion, and in the instant of weakness when he tried to deal with that, she aimed a kick at his stomach. It was a bee-like stab by her stiletto heel, but it sliced through the air where George was no longer.
上段かかと落とし、鎖骨骨折。
From beside Gap, George coldly announced that, his foot still raised. If that monarch's heel had been swung down, a collarbone fracture would have been an understatement. You should have just done it, George.
こいつ、資金じゃ私より強いの。距離を。
She jumped backwards to gain a large distance. She jumped and leapt and even backflipped, increasing the distance between them. It should have been magnificent, but for some reason, it looked very similar to the movements of a small, scared animal. If she opened the distance, she could fight at the range that was her speciality, using a mixture of pitfalls and kicking techniques.
バカが私を倒せるチャンスを3度も逃した傲慢。
What? Gap landed beautifully and tried to aim a pitfall, when a razor-sharp wind cut her bangs. Yes, cut them! And twice! This time, it didn't just stop a hair's breadth away, but scattered her bangs with its air pressure.
アルマーダ・コン・マルテーロ。
What?
第一撃で眼底骨折。
Oh, is the name of a kick?
第2撃で脳挫傷。
Gap was too shocked to speak. George had closed all that distance in an instant and let off a fearsomely nimble mid-air double kick. Furthermore, with the accuracy and edge of a razor, it had cut nothing more than a few of her bangs.
空手で蹴りの威力を、テコンドーで速度、カポエイラでは自在の間合いを学んだ。母さんがいろいろと移り気でね。でもいろいろと特徴を学べて勉強になったよ。
なぜ当てない？私が女だからとでも言うのか？
君は王者の力として3つ目に暴力と言ったね。君はどうやらまだその暴力の意味を誤解しているようだ。この場合の暴力とはね、短絡的に振るわれる乱暴のことを言うんじゃない。敵対すれば無傷では済まないという抑止のことを指すんだよ。
抑止。
That was the point. That was why all of George's attacks up until then had stopped just before the blow. These bare misses, which were more difficult than hitting directly, had all been performed so splendidly. And any one of them would probably have crushed Gap in a single hit if George had wished it. Oh my goodness! He was deliberately not doing that.
君も言ったろ。暴力は滑る力だと。暴力で相手を破壊してしまったら滑られないじゃないか。
Wow. He's thinking so much.
王者の暴力とはね、見せるだけなんだよ。破壊しない、屈服させて自らの財産とするんだからね。君に泡でも吹かれたらみんなの囚われてる場所に案内させられないよ。
Gap had to admit it. She had to admit that George understood force in the truest sense.
みんなのところへ案内してもらうよ。抵抗はおすすめしない。もう寸止めはしないよ。
ごめんねリア。あんたの兵隊借りさせて。
What?
私一人じゃ手に負えないわこいつ。
She took these goats from the dungeon? As a large pitch black hole opened in the sky, thunk, 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 3 muscular goat attendants fell out. They surround George.
増援会？それは僕がひ弱であることを撤回したと受け止めていいのかな？
認めるわ。あんたの人間の力を侮ってたわ。
違うね。これが愛を覚えた男の強さなのさ。
ほざけ！臭いことをシャーシャーと。さあヤギたち、その男を潰して肉団子にしてやりなさい。
It seems like the witches don't really like love. The same way Beatrice was kind of appalled by it. Gap also seems the same way? I'm not really sure.
このヤギたちはバカだけどパワーだけはあるみたいよ。あんたの死体婚約者にも見分けがつかなくしてあげるわ。
降伏拒否並びに継戦の意思了解したよ。以後は君の攻撃に等しい分だけ君に実害が及ぶことを宣言する。僕をまだ攻撃するつもりなら相応の損害を受けることになると。
When George proclaimed that, a faint red magic circle rose up around him. But it seemed that George couldn't see it. He has magic? Or maybe it's the power of love? However, Gap, being a demon, could.
魔法？どうしてこいつが防御結界を？しかもそれ反撃特化？それがあんたの抑止という意味。
From a demon's perspective, that might have been magic. But in George's eyes, it was determination. It was absolute determination that would show no mercy to anyone who wished for further fighting, and force them to prepare for a significant counterattack. Absolute determination becomes magic. That's a hint, right? Renove had been accurately blocking Jessica's fists with a shield. You know what? I feel like in the last episode we got to see a lot of the adults' awesomeness, but this time in episode 4 we get to see a lot of the cousins being really cool too. Renove had been accurately blocking Jessica's fists with a shield, but something felt odd. Even though he was certainly stopping the blows with the shield, he felt his arm beginning to strain and ache. All physical damage should have been shut off. However, the damage from her fists was gradually being transmitted to his arm and was accumulating. Renove acted like he was composed so that this wouldn't be noticed.
私はバテねえぜ。どうしたよおっさん。嫉妬は答えてきたかよ。
いくら攻撃しようとも無駄ですよ。私のシールドはあなたには砕けないと。
砕けないからってよ。どんな固い心にだって言葉はわずかずつ響き、やがてはひびを入れることだってできるんだ。私は信じてる。この世に無駄な努力なんて存在しないってな。だから生きるんだろ、思いっきり。言葉だっていつか通じるなら拳だって同じってことだぜ。私の辞書には諦めるって文字は書いちゃいねえんだぜ。
Those words were probably aimed at Cannon. Cannon had technically rejected Jessica's words, but Jessica knew that no matter how obstinate his heart was, those words would eventually soak through. And she believed that surely the day would come when he would understand her heart and stop calling himself furniture and disparaging himself, and step out into his new life. So Jessica wouldn't give up. She wouldn't lose heart.
バカみてえだろ。男には理解できねえだろ。恋する乙女ってのはな、無駄だから諦めるって考えがねえんだぜ。
At that time, Renove certainly saw. He saw the red-hot burning glow of light surround Jessica's fists. And a barrier.
これは参りました。エンチャントですか。浸透付与とは厄介な。
Within her relentless fists and determination dwelt the power to succeed no matter what. From a demon's perspective, that was magic. It's determination. Magic is determination, or something like that. Right? Magic seems to be a lot of things, though. Love, determination, and hope. Absolute determination becomes magic.
な、無駄なんてことはね。通ってんだろ。私の拳、腕をかばってるぜ、おっさん。
もう少し本気を出さざるを得ないようですね。おっしゃる通りのようです。この世に無駄なことなどない。
そうさ、無駄なんて諦めたらそこで人生が終わっちまうぜ。通じるんだよ、絶対に。
Even now, she's thinking of Cannon. I'm an idiot, so this is the only way I can live. But even so, I believe that one day, I'll definitely be able to teach Cannon-kun about a new world. So I'm not gonna buckle in a place like this. I'll definitely defeat you, and save everyone.
くそ！なんとか隙間を！
Krauss was repeating his useless effort in trying to somehow open a hole between the metal bars. But, like Jessica says, there's no such thing as useless effort. And honestly, Krauss here is probably one of the first few times we ever see him this emotional. Before, he was always very cool-headed and calm, but with his daughter involved and Natsuhi gone, he's kind of changed. Useless. There is nothing useless. There is nothing... The lookout goats have been swallowed up by those black pits and disappeared. Now is your do-or-die chance. This was your only chance to break the bars.
よせ、無茶だ。クラウスさん、素手でどうにかなるもんじゃない。 道具を探しましょう。無茶をするんじゃない。
無駄と諦めたらそれまでと娘に言われてしまった。私の体は無理でも小柄なシャノンかカノンが抜けられれば。
この段階に至っては出ない知恵を絞るより行動あるのみね。力を合わせましょう。私もやるわ。カノン君、男の子でしょ。手を貸して。カノン君
Oh? What's he gonna do?
旦那様、下がってください。
何をする気だ。
Oh my goodness.
いいよね。姉さん、もう一度だけ、あがいても。
Struggle against Beatrice?
私ももう一度だけあがくよ。一度だけじゃない。何度でも。
Jessica's voice had reached Canon. It had certainly permeated into his stone-cold heart. And George's voice had reached Shannon. If the love he had shown was embodied by strength, she would have to respond in the same way. They did it! They escaped! An incredible metallic sound rang out. The first flash cut horizontally through several of the metal bars, and with the next flash they were cut through horizontally again, causing them to clatter to the ground like bamboo shoots cut by a sword. Krauss, Kyrie, and Nanjo didn't even have a clue about what had just happened.
南條先生、お屋敷や廊下をどっちに。
左奥だ、左奥。
参りましょう、旦那様方。すぐにワルギリア様に気づかれます。
あんたたちは一体何なの。
僕たちは。
When Kennen hung his head a little and faltered, Shannon slapped his shoulder, smiled, and spoke.
私たちは人間です。
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. When Kennen faltered, I thought he was gonna say that they were furniture, but Shannon has accepted and believes that they are human. Oh my goodness. I'm getting chills.
ワルギリア様！警戒網に反応、脱獄です。なぜか見張りのヤギがいません。
どうしてです？ガープですね。人の召喚物を勝手に。
Something about Virgilia now makes her very, I won't say childish, but something like that, something along those lines. It reminds me a little bit of how Beatrice acts, but in episode 3 we always saw Virgilia as very mature kind of appearance, but in episode 4 with Gap around, she's become kind of not immature, but you know, Gap, I guess, pushes some buttons.
ガップ交戦規定確認。脱走者への射殺許可を申請であります。おやりなさい。やっちゃいなさい。ガップ了解であります。45、410追撃狙撃戦準備。弾手収束誘導弾。ワルギリア様、逃亡阻止結界を。そうでしたね。ここから逃がしはしませんよ。ガプ言ってたら舌噛みました。
She's so silly now. As they ran down the underground passage, the path in front of them was once again blocked by metal bars. The door was, of course, locked. Doesn't this look exactly like where the Golden Land was that Eva found? Isn't it? So it was in Kuadorian, was it not? However, that was no problem for them now.
カノン、また鉄格子だ。頼む。
はい、旦那様。
しかしすごいわ。一体どういう原理なのかしら。
Here, it feels like Kyrie doesn't see it as magic, though. Since she's asking for what kind of principle it works on.
原理なぞ興味ないね。大事なのは 彼に鉄格子が切断できてる。ここ気にするなカノン、やれ。
お任せを。
Cannon sliced the metal bars again with a red trail. But there was a harsh, strange noise, and only a slight stretch was left on the metal bars. What?
なんと、これは頑丈な。
違う、エンチャントされてる。ワルギリア様の魔法城だ。
切断できる？
もちろん。でも時間をかけるよ。
3分間待ってやる。
Krauss, who are you to give Cannon instructions now? He's your ticket out of this place. After taking a deep breath and focusing his concentration, Cannon once again extended his sword that trailed red. His sword that trailed red, I don't know, kind of feels like a little clue. When he pressed it hard against the metal bars, sparks sprayed almost as though he was burning through them with a blowtorch. Blood? Blood?
切断はできそうだけど手こずりそうだな。
Blood? Well, I mean, I was thinking of blood since red, but really?
旦那様、敵に捕捉されました。下がってください。
追って誰も来てないわよ。
私の後ろに下がってください。狙われてます。45、データ治療。標的は捕捉。地形誤差修正。射撃曲線形成。制御点補正完了。410データリン410データ受領。危険区域確認。問題なし。
WO 師団装填48発。個別誘導 F&F。収束誘導弾準備完了。
45、射撃準備完了。収束誘導弾装填。410にひひひ射撃。
A golden arrow that sparkled gold was fired, leaving a gold tail streaming behind. It drew a curve, went through the door, through the keyhole, down the stairs, towards the underground path at full speed.
何か光りましたぞ。
黄金の矢はシールドで防げない。カノン君、迎撃態勢。リンクしよ
う。ゲートキーパー了解。
What? Gatekeeper? Huh?
姉さんと一緒に戦うのは久しぶりだ。動じらないでよ。
本気でやる。
なら問題ない。
Shannon stopped cutting the bars and stood in front of Shannon. Behind him, Shannon closed her eyes, concentrating her mind, focusing deep, deep into the darkness of the underground path. A guided cluster round is a special kind of arrow made up of 48 sub-rounds bound together. It explodes mid-flight and divides into 48 mini-arrows. What? The strength of each individual one is low, but they pierce through all shields and possess total lethality against ground groups. And on top of that, each one of the 48 possesses autonomous guidance towards their individual targets. Sounds like such high-tech technology.
光った。分裂した。
収束誘導弾。師団46、7、8、48。全弾捕捉。迎撃完成。カノンへデータリンク。
They have data linking too? I'm kind of losing it.
カノンデータ受領。姉さんの能力はすごいな。48発全部見える。
迎撃優先順位に注意。
What are they? Are they really robots?
姉さんを信じて。
もちろんさ。僕は目を開ける必要さえない。
迎撃開始。
はあ。
目標健在。迎撃されました。にひゃ48発全部。
シャノンとカノンはもともと一組の家具ですからね。揃うと手強いこと。
Virgilia is so happy about it though.
あいつだってこれ口内炎になっちゃうかしら。
Honestly, it doesn't seem like Gap or Virgilia seems to be taking it really seriously.
男子を変更。精密高速狙撃弾。精密狙撃戦準備。
そりゃいいね。追撃不能の超高速弾。ゲートキーパーごときじゃ防御不能だに。精密狙撃戦了解。精密射撃用データ収集開始。
一体今のは何なんだ。
安心して。私にもさっぱりよ。一つわかるのは二人に頼らなきゃ死んでたってことね。
カノン君ありがとう。鉄格子に戻って。多分次のは迎撃できない弾が来る。
そんな攻撃をどう防ぐんだ。
撃たせません。カノン君霊視線防備。
At those words, Cannon closed his eyes tightly and clenched his teeth. With Shannon at the center, pressure and impact blasted out that could only be perceived by those not human. What? I'm losing it. Oh? An unseen, unheard impact blasted towards the Siester sisters. 00 and 410 crouched down, covering their ears, but 45 didn't make it in time. Still standing bolt upright, her eyes rolled inside her head. What? What?
45損傷。コンパイラのエンジンがいっちゃったよ。きゃ私もノイズがひどいに。
45、410、そして損傷。狙撃戦を断念。リンクもろに来た。再起動しないと。
Raising their spirit particle sensitivity for precision sniping had backfired. They had taken a full brunt of the spirit particle shockwave Shannon had released. And not only 45, who had been hit directly, but also 00 and 410, who had been linked with her, were taken down.
大丈夫ですか？後でまた美味しい紅茶を入れてあげますからね。しっかり。
I guess it's not a serious injury.
申し訳ございませんであります。再起動をかけます。数百秒ほどお待ちを。
All of the Siester sisters collapsed. They would probably get back up eventually, but it looked like it would be hard for them to return to the battle lines for a while.
家具が武具を一時的にとはいえ退けますか。
Though you would say the Siester sisters are different from Shannon and Ken and the so-called furniture.
なるほど。
Oh god.
あの子の面白がる筋書きは実に大番狂わせが多いこと。
I hate that face of hers. I hate it so much. Virgilia tore the air with a large motion as though opening a door.
さあさあおいでなさい。ヤギの従者たち。お仕事の時間ですよ。脱走者たちを殺して捕らえなさい。死体でいいのですよ。どうせ蘇生できるし。
A gold-colored door opened in the air and countless giant goats with muscular bodies peeked their faces out.
さあさあ急ぎなさい。脱走者は5人いるから5等賞までの早い者勝ち。素敵なご褒美がありますよ。さあさあ頑張って頑張って。
Virgilia clapped her hands, urging them on. A prize? After glancing at each other at those words, the goats rushed through the door at once, trying to get out, making the exit as tight a squeeze as the trains during the commuter rush. Oh, silly goats. Each wanted to get out first, so none of them could get out. Virgilia held her head in frustration. They are incompetent. By that time, Kennen had managed to cut just enough bars to make a gap that could be slipped through. It proved a bit of work for Krauss, large as he was, and Nanjo, whose waist was nearly his downfall, but even so, they all managed to make it through. But their relief at getting through was short-lived. Immediately, another set of metal bars blocked the way in front of them.
厳重ね。よっぽどここの人を逃がしたくなかったんでしょうね。
I wonder if they've tried opening the doors. Maybe it's unlocked.
カノン、すまんがもう一度頼む。辛いだろうが頼む。
There was sweat on Kennen's forehead. You could tell at a glance that cutting the metal bars, which had been made even more solid by magic, was exhausting him considerably.
はい、お任せを、旦那様。
お前にしかできん。どうか頼む。
Only he could do it. Holding tightly onto those words, Kennen concentrated his mind again and once more set himself to the task of cutting the bars.
後方、敵が来ます。複数。
ええ、今度は私たちにもわかるわ。すごい地響きね。とんでもない化け物が殺到してくるのがわかるわ。
ご安心を。今抜けた鉄格子を私が魔法城で封鎖します。ヤギたちごときには破れません。
Shannon held her hand out towards the bars they had come through, but she stopped right away.
どうかしましたか？
バルギリア様が霊波妨害の中和を開始。破られるとまずい。シエスタ姉妹の再起動後のイニシアチブを奪われます。
可愛いウサギたちをいじめてくれたお返しはたっぷりとさせていただきますよ。この小賢しい霊視で優位に立とうというなら、それを丸ごと剥ぎ取って私が奪ってあげます。
Am I being introduced to like something in the game? Crafty little spirit particles? What is she talking about?
姉さんは霊波妨害に集中して、あのヤギたちにその鉄格子の隙間は狭すぎる。しばらくは食い止めてくれるはず。
何を言っているかさっぱりだもん。
だいぶやばいってことだけは理解できたわ。
Heya picked up a metal bar that Kennen had just cut. Krauss had no weapon, but he rubbed his fists, and the two of them glared into the depths of the underground passage where the shaking was coming from.
この鉄格子で遮るものはおしまいのはずだ。ここから屋敷までどのくらいあるんです？かなり歩く。
Why to walk?
道は平坦だが30分は歩いた記憶が。
30 minutes.
全力疾走ならその半分ってことだわ。
They couldn't tell for sure since they didn't have the three-sided mirror. But there was no guarantee that George and Jessica could hold out against demon opponents for all that time.
歩く2倍の速度で走れば15分。さらにその2倍で走れば8分を切るわ。
Wow.
さらにその倍の全力疾走なら5分かからん。問題ない。むちゃくちゃな計算ですが。
Exactly.
ですが、カジマの計算式はそういうものです。
申し訳ございません。旦那様方、後を頼みます。
任せたまえ。カノンは1秒でも早く鉄格子を。シャノンはワルギリアとかいう魔女への妨害に専念したまえ。
This witch called Virgilia, whatever.
追っては私とキリエさんで防ぐ。
Then the roars of beasts rang out from the darkness, and numerous fiery, glowing, bright red eyes appeared. The goats, rushing towards them with thunderous force, were several levels more massive than the guards had been. The tremors they created were almost like an earthquake. The power and terror were tremendous, but Kyrie instead laughed with relief. Why? Those massive bodies wouldn't be able to go through the gap in the bars. Oh, that's kind of creepy. A group of goats crashed into the metal bars with a terrific sound like that of a train colliding with a dead end. Seems like Virgilia is not even thinking this true. Clumps of dirt fell here and there from the ceiling, and you could tell that the metal bars had buckled inwards. The force of their charge must have been no different from a train. If the metal bars hadn't been there, they would undoubtedly have swallowed the 5 of them up and crushed them in an instant. When a group of goats pressed up against the metal bars, realized that a 5 were right in front of them. They let out a terrible howl, trying to intimidate the 5, although it was hard to tell whether that was really intimidation or because of the pain from being pushed and shoved. One calm goat among them figured out that it just needed to do something about the metal bars, and grabbed 2 of them with its massive arms and began bending them as though opening double doors. Heya sharply jabbed her metal pole at that goat's vitals. The goat let out a roar of anguish. It probably hurt a lot, but that was all. It wasn't enough to bring it down. Still holding the stuck-in metal pole, Heya relinquished the opposite tip to Krauss. Krauss ran in there with all his might, leapt into the air, and kicked it in with all of his weight and kicking power combined. All of that destructive power was focused on that single pole, drilling it in. Oh my goodness. It's kinda hard to tell if Nanjo is asking the goat or... Oh, never mind, he is talking to the goat. As the goat who had taken a pile bunker to its vitals writhed with teary eyes, it nodded its head so it understood, huh?
私たちのリンクも結構いけるじゃない。シャノンちゃんたちには負けられないわ。
当然じゃないか。私たちは仲良し一族だからね。
二人がかりでならいけるわ。次、右側のあいつ。
了解だ。いい嫁さんじゃないか。ルドルフめ、少し愚痴が多かったんじゃないかな。
へえ、後で聞かせてもらうわ。ルドルフさん、天国で青くなっても手遅れよ。
The goat's massive body sank into the rose bush. Even taking into account that a leg's power is 3 times that of an arm's, the strength surpassed common sense. That massive body, flying up and through the air from being kicked in the chin, it was too epic. Even George seemed a little surprised.
僕の蹴りが化け物にも通用したとはね。驚きだよ。
あんたの反撃特化結界のせいよ。ブレイズした攻撃力をそのまま自らに上乗せしてる。あんたの蹴りにはその化け物どもの怪力が加算されてるのよ。
へえ、よくわからないけど僕にぴったりじゃないか。誰であろうとも攻撃してくるなら等しい反撃を覚悟してもらう。専守防衛、僕のポリシーそのものだ。
That's why Gap couldn't easily touch him. The counterattacking type barrier had no defensive power. However, because of its counterattacking characteristic, it could be useful in defense by making the opponent hesitate to attack. The goats were foolish, so they attacked without worrying. But the effect was being realized to the full against Gap.
こいつらは単調だね。パワーが互角であるならば小柄な。
He lightly dodged the log-like arm. When that arm tried to touch the barrier that protected George, it let off a strong red light. And the tip of the foot that was counterattacking gained the same shine, and the superhuman power of the goat was added to George's own. The second goat fell forwards and floated in the air for a second. And George's next roundhouse kick missed right over the falling goat's head. For an instant, the goat hoped to get away with its life. But no! A heel was dropped onto the back of its head, and it was forced to kiss the ground.
上段回し蹴りからの練りチャギは基本だろ。たまにやると結構当たるよ。
こいつマジで厄介だわ。
何が悪魔だ、何が魔女だ。六軒島の主人はこの後ろ宮家だよ。それを体で教えてやるよ。
こいつ。
The only way to finish off George now that his body was wrapped up in a counterattacking type barrier was to not allow him to counterattack. next time she sucked him into the abyss, she would have to kick and drop him, kick and drop him, kick and drop him, until she kicked him to death. But George had already perfected reading the faint warning signs that told of the appearance of Gap's pitfalls. If he managed to jump over the next pit, then this time he would probably pulverize Gap's head with his whirlwind-like kick without holding back in the slightest. You know, I really hope that they win, but I still feel like they're not gonna win. Just as had been done to his parents, she was able to envision that scene vividly. It was far too late now, but Gap cursed Kinzo all the same for calling her out to this ridiculous island. No way! Renove finally started using both of his hands to form his shield. Without a more powerful shield, he wouldn't be able to completely block Jessica's fists anymore. The enchantment on Jessica's fists grew the more she fought. The permeation upgrade had already stacked several times, and those fists had also been given an impact upgrade, a piercing upgrade, and a speed upgrade, making them fists worthy to fight on par with a demon.
どうしたよ。へばってきたんじゃねえのかよ。動きが鈍ってきてるぜ。
いいえ、ジェシカ様の動きと思考、動体視力が飛躍的にエンチャントされているのです。私の動きは最初から変わっていませんよ。あなたの動きが私を捉えつつあるのです。
それでも反撃はしねえわけか。
これが私のこだわりですので。しかしこのままというわけにもいきますまい。そろそろ本気で終わりにさせてもらいますよ。
Renove's face turned into an expression he had never shown before. It was truly demonic, and to Jessica's eyes, full of respect. Because it was an expression only shown to enemies strong enough to make him get serious. With a whole body gesture that you couldn't call elegant, Renove set up a shield with all his strength, the size and thickness of a wall. Its sturdiness was nothing like a shield. It was literally a wall. And on top of that, with all of Renove's magical power, it pushed Jessica back bit by bit. Did he plan on pushing her back against the wall and crushing her to death? Jessica tried to break through the wall with both fists, but it was solid. Without any exaggeration, it was solid.
これがお前の本気かよ。上等だぜ。打ち砕いてやらー。
今度はそうはさせませんよ。この壁は一味違います。どれ、私もエンチャントさせていただきましょう。
Renove meets magic signs with fingers almost like a ninja. The wall glowed red for just an instant and became imbued with some kind of ominous power. Almost immediately, Jessica also gained a first-hand understanding of this. Every time she pounded her fist against the wall, pain rebounded upon her as though glass fragments had scattered and hit all over her body.
攻撃反応装甲を付与させていただきました。ジェシカ様の攻撃を相殺することで威力を減退させ、のみならず反応破片で反撃までできる優れものです。殴り続けるのは大いに結構ですが、それは自らにも及びます。
つまりお前の壁と私の我慢比べってことかよ。上等だ。
ジェシカ様が膝をつくのが先か、壁に押し込まれるのが先か、見物させていただきましょう。
ぶち破ってこの壁ごとお前の横っ面をぶっ飛ばす方が先かもな。見てやがれ。
Without hesitation, Jessica slammed both fists into the wall. Each time she did, a large amount of shards scattered, tormenting her body all over. Countless red cuts soon appeared all over her body. She grimaced at the intense pain, but her eyes were burning with fighting spirit, and her lips curved in a grin exactly the opposite of the pain.
カノン、まだかね。私たちは平気だが、奴らを防ぐ鉄格子が平気ではなさそうだ。
もう少しです。
こいつらキリがないわ。おしくらまんじゅうだけで鉄格子を破りかねない。
The metal bars creaked under the strain of the group of goats. Several arms grabbed bars, twisting them with superhuman strength. However, some bars were being pulled in opposite directions by different hands. Apparently, they really were stupid. The way those countless hands were grabbing the metal bars happened to match up by chance. Several hands, grasping two metal bars, neatly put the power together and pulled the bars to the left and right, creating an opening. The incredible sound of metal bending could be heard, and the gap was getting larger bit by bit. They attacked the arms of those goats one by one, but they weren't getting anywhere. They couldn't stop the gap from expanding left and right. A loud metallic sound came from behind them. Ken had finally finished cutting.
キリエさん、レディーファーストだ。南條先生も続いてる。
旦那様、ここは僕に任せてください。
What? Ken's red sword, with which he had cut the metal bars, disappeared.
ごめん、バルギリア様の霊視線影響下に入った。私たちの魔力が中和されてる。
Ow.
よくも大魔女と呼ばれた私にここまで抗ったものです。もはやその地下道ではあなたたちの魔法は使えませんよ。
A magic circle column drew complex magical formulae around Virgilia. With such full-fledged magic being used, Chen's power couldn't even compete. On the contrary, it was surprising that she had withstood as much as she had.
霊視優勢を確保。さあシエスタ姉妹、今度こそあなたたちの出番ですよ。ってまだ再起動してるんですか？なんで最近の子は寝起きが悪いの？
申し訳ありませんであります。私たち全員バージョンが違ってて。なんでバージョン変わるたびにショートカットとプルダウンがしっちゃかめっちゃかになるに。
I'm so confused, but it really sounds like they are some pieces of technology.
前回不正な終了がありました？管理者権限？何これわけわかんない。早く直して。
この得体トラブルシュートにコール。何？ユーザーコードがないと教えない？
Oh my goodness.
ユーザーコードは45が管理してるんよ。
9999にしか聞こえん。紙に書かせろ。
言語支援システム再起動できてないから文字も書けないに。
Oh my goodness.
お前たちはゆっくり修理していなさい。私が行ってきます。
ごめんなさい。
The narrow underground passage was packed with goats, truly like a commuter train in the morning. Virgilia was again in disbelief at this congestion.
何をやってるんですか？ご褒美が欲しいから一番乗りがしたい？他のヤギにご褒美を奪われたくないから邪魔をし合っている？このおバカヤギたちが！私が行きますから道を開けなさい。何？嫌ですって？ワルギリア様がご褒美を奪うつもりだ？
Oh my goodness.
なんでスクラム組んでるんですか？きつい狭い。いつからここはヤギ専用車両に？今お尻触った子、次の駅で降りなさい。何あなた、こっちへ来いって。
This whole situation is just so ridiculous right now. The 5 people in Krauss' group dashed through the passageway with all their strength. They couldn't afford to dawdle around underground. They had to quickly join up with the children on the surface. Once everyone was together, there would no longer be anything to fear. Just then, a terrible rumble started closing in from behind. Had the pursuers finally made it through the metal bars? But they couldn't see anyone when they turned around. But that rumble and the dirt falling here and there from the ceiling grew closer and closer, finally catching up with them and even going past them. It felt almost like they had been passed by goats. Huh? The instant after they thought that nothing had happened, the ceiling in front of them fell in and a single goat stood in their path. A real goat? I guess so. Virgilia was sitting on its shoulder.
賢い子が近道を知っていました。偉い子ですね。一等賞ですよ。後で手作りのサバのカレー煮をご馳走してあげますよ。
Mackerel, this is so Kumasawa. Isn't Virgilia Kumasawa? Isn't she? Maybe it really was happy even to receive such a dubious prize. The massive goat showed its joy by putting its hands together and wiggling. Ah, I hate that face. Virgilia leapt down, laughing that now it was finally checkmate.
くそ、ダメだ。魔力が完全に殺されてる。
まだよ。魔法がなくても、私たちにはまだこの体がある。
無茶だ。あんな化け物にあの不思議な力がなくて戦えるわけがない。
子供たちは下がっていたまえ。私が何とかするから、その隙にあの化け物の両脇を駆け抜けるんだ。
させませんよ。
Virgilia clapped her hands and a purple magic barrier appeared behind her, stealing even the faint hope that Krauss had been betting on.
断じキュースか。いや、まだだ。ジェシカも戦った。私が戦わんわけにはいかん。
本気なの？無理よ。あんな巨大な化け物に。
むちゃくちゃだ。クラウスさん、他の方法を考えましょう。
思いついたら提案してくれたまえ。それまでも私が何とかするしかないようだ。さあ、下がりたまえ。
気をつけて。おやおや、クラウス。あなた一人でこの子と戦うつもりですか？
わからんぞ。
That's kind of funny.
戦いにはまぐれあたりの一発だってあり得る。
まぐれでも勝てるつもりとお思いですか？身の程知らずのあなたのために私が状況を整理して差し上げましょう。
何？
あなたが 100% の力を発揮したとしてあなたの戦闘力はせいぜい6。対してこの子の戦闘力は1000。つまりあなたが100人束になっても絶対に勝てないということです。
That number one scared me. The number one on the top right?
まあ、確かに戦いには不確定要素もあります。
Am I supposed to click it?
その戦闘力に多少の倍率がかかることも認めましょ
う。Well, I clicked it and nothing happened.
しかしそれでも、あなたがこの子を倒せる確率は 0.00001% というところでしょうか。
That number is scaring me.
お分かりかしら？あなたには万に一つの勝ち目もないということです。
I don't understand. What does the number even mean? Is the number of times she insulted him? Virgilia and the goat fought together.
毎日ということは配当は1万倍ということではないかね。いい大穴だ。そういう馬券は好きだよ。買いたくなる。
それを買うコインはあなたの命1枚しかありませんよ。しかしそれでもその奇跡に運命を託したいというあなたの気持ちですので、 恐れずに立ち向かうあなたの勇気をたたえ、一つハンデを差し上げましょう。この子は左腕一本で戦います。
I don't understand. What is the number?
まあそれでもあなたに負ける気は全くしませんが、それにしても何かしら、さっきからピンポンピンポンと。
Oh, so she hears it too. I was gonna say it sounds so much like it's from a game show.
よかる、その勝負受けて立ってやる。左腕だろうとなんだろうと、どうせ私は一撃で殺されるだろう。私のチャンスもまた一撃しかないのだ。それに全てかけるしかあるまい。
むちゃくちゃだ、クラウスさん。あんたがボクシングをやってたことは知っているが、それでも大学時代のはず。
Wow, some Krauss backstory.
いやいや、仮にプロのボクサーがいたとしても、あんな化け物一撃で倒せるはずもない。
リングの上での試合なら確かにね。でもクラウス兄さんが望みをかけるチャンスがわずかだけどあるわ。彼はそれに全て望みをかけている。
まさか。しかしそんなのうまくいくわけがない。
旦那様、
見ていろ。一撃で決めてやる。
Ho ho ho. How unwise. I know what you're gunning for. The distance between the two of them is more than 10 meters. If the Gohda and Krauss both step in with all their strength to settle the fight with a single blow, their power will be double the norm. Both will crash together, so it will be a relative 4 times normal. Even if, on top of that, that strike miraculously lands on a weak point for a critical hit, that will only double the power. In short, Krauss's maximum power level of 6 times 8 will cap out at 48 at most. He might just barely be able to win if he repeated that lucky shot a full 20 times. What is this, a game? They have like HP and stuff? Ho ho ho. If you're killed every time you take a hit and your damage still accumulates. Let's see, perhaps you could finally win when we get to episode 24. What is this? I don't like how she just broke the 4th wall there. I don't like this. If only this series could stretch on so long. Either way, you don't even have the slightest chance of victory. The ping pong thing is happening again. Good gracious, what is that ping pong I keep hearing?
私も一撃に全てをかけさせていただく。ヤギ君も遠慮することはない。本気で来たまえ。
全力を要望ですよ。本気の一撃で粉砕し、肉片に変えてやりなさいね。
As the goat got excited and beat its chest over and over, it took a position as though preparing for a sprint. Ho ho ho, is this what you were hoping for? Stick your hopes on your greatest power level and despair when even that doesn't reach at all. It pinged again! Wait, oh... Power? Is it power? The thing is really getting on my nerves. What is it?
行くぞ。いいかね。
The goat roared in response. Then, with a matched timing that only the men confronting each other could comprehend, the two leapt forward like bullets shot out of a gun. The men howled, collecting the strength from all over their bodies into one arm each. The goat's fiery glowing eyes clearly locked onto Krauss's face. He could perfectly see a vision of when he would step forward, when he would punch through Krauss and blow him away, and when he would achieve his total victory. Victory? I don't get it. The long painful days before today drifted through the goat's mind. Now it's just pinging every time. I don't know. The goat? The hard days of training where his senpais had picked on him. I'm gonna be eaten. Leave this to me and go on ahead. Senpai? What the heck? The faint glimpses of his senpai's warm concern during those days. Oh my goodness. The goat hits are actually really cute. Sorry to keep you waiting, you guys. Why are you here? Oh my god. If only we could understand what the goat heads were saying. In the joy of that day, his power had been acknowledged, and he had been accepted as one of the team. I never properly respected my parents. That's right. I'd actually planned on washing my hands off this business when this job was over and returning to my hometown. What? Huh? I don't know what's happening. So it's really someone in that suit. Sorry, my little goat sister. Your Ni-chan caused you nothing but trouble. Okay, never mind. I have no idea what's happening. And I actually have a childhood friend and I'm gonna marry her when I get home. What is that? That's what it is? Loser flags? It seems like that's a flag in VNs. I've never heard of a loser flag though. It happened the instant before the two crashed and their punches crossed. The very instant the goat's left straight and Krauss' right straight crossed, the goat obeyed Virgilia's order with super fast reflexes and pulled back his straight, deflecting Krauss' punch. Yes, Virgilia's decision was probably wise. After all, the number of loser flags act as a multiplier on the opponent's power level. I don't know what is happening anymore. This is confusing me so much. There's like so many mechanics at play. So is that Virgilia's loser flag? Okay, hold up. Why is everyone talking about loser flags like it's something that I should know? Krauss and a goat's double rush make it ×4. With a miracle on their side, the firm promise of a critical hit would double it again for ×8. Critical hit? Are we playing a game right now? On top of that, a multiplier of 20 equal to the number of tripped loser flags applies, makes it 160. At a glance, that looked like an incredible amplification, but even so, Krauss' power level is a 6. Even multiplied by 160, it only makes for a power level of 960. Just a fraction below the goat's 1000. Having deflected Krauss' right straight, the goat's own right straight closed in on the right side of Krauss' face, which had been left open. But there it crossed with a left straight from Krauss. The two punches crossed and time stopped as each aimed for the face of the other.
あんた最初のクロスカウンターを弾かせちまった。確かにその次に繰り出した右ストレートが当たればクラウスさんは粉々にされていただろう。しかしそいつをクロスされてしまった。こりゃダメだ。悪いがあんたんとこのヤギさんの乾杯だよ。
A cross counter has 4 times the destructive power. This is common knowledge in boxing. And if that is deflected, then right straight hits, and the double cross counter has 8 times the destructive power. I'm so confused. This is also common knowledge in boxing. If that is crossed, by the principle of leverage, the triple cross then multiplies the destructive power by 12. This is also painfully common knowledge in the world of boxing. Is it? What kind of boxing are we talking about?
クラウスさんの戦闘力は6。
How do you measure someone's power level?
双方2倍の踏み込みで4倍。
クリティカルヒットで8倍。
負けフラグの立てすぎで160倍。
How is everyone... Okay, you know what? I understand what's going on. Everyone is aware they are part of a game. That's why they know what loser flags are. How are they just casually accepting that loser flags are appearing? If they can't accept magic, but they can accept loser flags? Do they understand that they are in a game?
そしてトリプルクロスカウンターでさらに12倍。
1920倍。
A power level of 1100,520. Krauss's punch now had the power to easily win that Budokai tournament.
これは勝利を最後まで諦めなかったクラウスさんの執念とあんたの慢心が招いた結果だ。どちらが欠けてもこの威力にはならなかった。あんたよく戦ったよ。もう倒れてもいいんだぞ。
Nanjo patted the goat on the shoulder. Oni-chan gave it his all. As the sparkling drops from the goat's eyes scattered, he softly toppled backwards and fled in Virgilia like a pancake. The goat's massive body was too heavy for the slender Virgilia. She floundered around it with it on top of her, but it didn't look like she would be able to escape. In that instant, the barrier Virgilia had sealed broke. God, what is happening? What is happening?
テコの原理を侮ったのが君の敗因だ。
どうしてあのカウンターでテコの原理が働くのかしらね。永遠の謎だわ。
今のうちに逃げましょう。ヤギさんもお大事に。
Nanjo seems awfully concerned about the goat heads.
それでは失礼します、バルギリア様。
ペコリ。
Wait, did he just say he bowed?
待ちなさい。これどけて。ガブガブガブガブガブガブ。
There was nothing more to block their way. They ran through the underground passage with a single-minded purpose. Jessica had finally been cornered with the back to the wall. Renove's magic barrier was advancing bit by bit and would probably crush her against the wall before long. Considering the distance, this would be the final strike, the final throw of her iron fist. Jessica had dealt out so many punches so far. Oh? The wall wasn't invincible. It had already started to crack, and it wouldn't be strange for it to smash at any moment. However, due to the rebounding damage, Jessica herself was in very bad shape, with cuts all over her body.
もうおよしなさい。あなたを押しつぶすつもりはありません。あなたの処遇は親方様が決めますからね。しかし、ジェシカ様のナイスファイトは私からも特に申し上げるつもりですよ。
ふざけるんじゃねえぜ。まだだ、まだ終わっちゃいねえぜ。
あなたは満身創痍。 立っているのもやっとではありませんか。あなたは最後の一撃に全ての力を込めるつもりでいるようだ。しかしその最後の一撃はむしろあなたにとって命取りになりますよ。
The damage reflected by Renove's magic barrier was proportional to the strength of the attack. Jessica's all-out punch would be bounced back onto her. The more all-out she went, the more suicidal it would be for her.
分かってるぜ。そんなことはよ。
警告します。もうおやめなさい。それがあなたのためです。
強がるなよ。お前の壁がもう破れかかってるんだろ。殴ってきた私には手応えで分かってるんだぜ。
That was a fact. Renove's wall was already on the verge of breaking. And on top of that, Jessica's fists had been imbued with an unimaginable magical attack by power by now, and their destructive power defied the imagination. If she wasn't careful, that destructive power might pierce the defensive wall, smash Renove as well, and then go on to expand the size of her bedroom by connecting it to the room next door. However, that damage would rebound on Jessica as well. She wouldn't escape unharmed.
もう一度だけ言います。おやめなさい。あなたのためを思って言っています。
やかましいぜ。覚悟しやがれ。
Jessica howled, putting all her strength and her last and greatest destructive power into her fist. She roared. The three goats had been beaten down long ago. Without a single ragged breath, George cautiously closed the distance between him and Gap. He was after her. He was planning on bringing her down with a single strike. Gap was also aiming for a single strike. If she let the chance slide this time, she would be killed.
落とし穴は使わないのかい?
Even a tiny moment of weakness during the time it took to open the hole would prove fatal against George now. Gap cautiously calculated the distance and timing, but even as she did, George closed the distance between them.
来ないなら行くよ。
来なさいよ。今さら小細工も何もないわ。私のこの蹴りで決着。
The instant she noticed George's body blur, only his jacket was floating in the air. A short sound of realization entered her mind, and in that instant, darkness covered her. George, with his heels swung up high, looked even like a massive dragon attacking from the sky.
かかったわね。これで私の勝ちよ。後ろ宮ジョージ。
何?
Yap opened a vast pit with her in the center and swallowed up George along with herself. The two were swallowed up by the pit and sped out from the ceiling of the arbor. My god. But that was what Gap had been after, so she alone landed lightly. But there was another pit in George's landing spot.
もらったわ。後ろ宮ジョージ。面白かったわよ。死になさい。あんたみたいな上等。後ろ宮家の当主なんてもったいないわ。
It would be a waste for George to end up as the Ushiromiya head?
今この場で私が食ってあげる。
George once again fell from the ceiling of the arbor. He had probably been dropped the same distance as falling off the roof of a two-story building. In midair, he couldn't control his posture in any way. It was impossible to resist or defend or avoid. As Gap spun like a whirlwind, she concentrated all of her energy on the sharp tip of her stiletto heel. This was the final strike to perform his requiem. The Queen Bee's final strike that would bore into heaven, knocking him down into the true abyss.
ようこそ奈落へ。こ ここがあんたの終着点よ。
The prey captured her in sight. She launched her foot up into the sky. It was then she saw George's face. Even though he was in midair, he was calmly adjusting his glasses with the middle finger of his left hand. And his posture was still preserved as that of an axe kick, aiming for Gap's forehead without the faintest deviation.
君がその手に出ることは想定済みだったよ。僕が地上の君に飛びかかとを食らわせるために飛んでいたなら、僕の姿勢はとっくに崩れていただろうさ。しかし僕の姿勢はいささかも崩れない。なぜかわかるかい？
He anticipated this too? My god.
僕は初めから数フロア下の君にかかとを食らわせるつもりで飛ん。君の負けだ、お嬢さん。
ピンポン。
A loser flag? I don't like this. Huh? Jessica's last and strongest upward punch reached the wall and was sucked in? It was sucked into the black, large hole that had suddenly opened on the wall. Jessica against George? Oh, that's not good.
だからおやめなさいと忠告したのに。
So what's happening now? Oh no. Oh.
実は
Happy Maria.
全然ピンチでもなんでもなかったの。ごめんなさいね。
Jessica's fist had gone for George's stomach, and George's axe kick had lined up on Jessica's head. The shocking destructive power imbued in Jessica's fist crushed George's organs and scattered his abdomen. What? The equally as shocking destructive power in George's axe kick smashed half of Jessica's head and scattered its contents in the same manner. So they're dead.
だって魔女は演技力なんでしょう。ねえねえリーチェ、どうよ、見ててくれたかしら。
He's not even laughing the same way anymore.
やるな、筋書き通り。やっぱガープは分かってるじゃん。イエーイ。
Vieto and Gap gave each other a light high five.
Arigato, Lorelei. こっちで美味しくいただけた。ジェシカの死体はそっちに返すわ。二人で寄り添う死体を引き離す。これで第二の晩は出来上がり。
I don't think that's what it says though. Separate the corpses of the two who are close? Is that it? Gap dropped Jessica's corpse into a pit and chucked all of the chunks of meat too into Jessica's room, as carelessly as throwing them into the trash. Jessica's corpse and lumps of flesh fell from the ceiling and poured out all over her room. Renove shook his head slightly at this all too gruesome change.
申し訳ございませんね、ジェシカ様。ご忠告は申し上げたのですよ。もっともこの結末を予見し、聞き入れないと分かっている忠告を重ねる悪魔の醍醐味は人間には分からないでしょうがね。
Wow, this is so frustrating.
本当に面白かったわ、坊や。でもあんたちょっと言葉遊びが過ぎるわよ。 そろそろ反撃してもいいかなが最高傑作あなたどこかのラノベか何かにかぶれすぎよ
In the arbor brutally decorated by George and Jessica's scattered blood and guts, Gap enjoyed a loud laugh for a while. But she quickly realized that, in all seriousness, this was a little too filthy and undignified, and she snapped her fingers. Butterflies. And cleaned it up. As she did, gold butterflies rose up from the ground all over her garden, stuck to each of the bits and stained patches of blood, and got them out. Then bit by bit, they slowly turned back into George's corpse. And the awful corpse with its guts splattered out was repaired into a clean corpse that looked like it was sleeping. Was this some kind of post-mortem sportsmanship towards a good opponent? The heavens were slowly split, because Gap had lifted a leg high into the air, pointing at the sky.
じゃあね、色男。これが本当のゲーム。
Oh? Swish. Without a trace of mercy, that foot was brought down and buried into George's forehead. Her stiletto heel, sharp as a weapon, was impaled through George's forehead. She pulled it out with a blorp. It was like a mark of proof that Gap had indeed finished him by her own hand, even though she did not. Renove returned Jessica's corpse to its original form as well. And unlike how it had been with George, he also restored Jessica's life. What?
いいえ、違います。ジェシカ様は確かにお亡くなりになりました。最後の瞬間の記憶をよくご存知のはずだ。
It was burnt in the back of Jessica's mind. For some reason, she remembered being thrown somewhere and that her head had been smashed by George's heel.
いいえ、死んでいます。私の魔法でほんの3分ほどそれを先送りにしているに過ぎません。3分が過ぎれば魔法が終わり、あなたは無残な頭部半壊の死体に戻ります。
だと
死は残酷です。多くの場合、心の整理さえ与えない。しかし私はここまで検討したあなたをたたえ、その3分間でこの世の未練をよく整理されるといいでしょう。
その3分でお前を道連れにするという手もあるぜ。
But the power that had been burning inside Jessica's body was now completely lost. Jessica was aware of that herself. She was already dead.
それでは私はこれにて失礼いたします。楽しかったですよ、ジェシカ様。
Renove turned his form into a cloud of gold butterflies and disappeared. All that remained was a sound of wind and rain and the figure of Jessica crashing down against a wall. Jessica realized, after 3 minutes, she probably would really revert to the corpse she had been. In those 3 minutes, was there anything she could do? She stood up and with a shaky gait, took the phone that was on the desk. And? A guest house. Oh.
もしもし、ジェシカか。ジェシカ、どうした？無事か？
やられしまったぜ。
大丈夫か？怪我をしてるのか？今助けに行く。
いや、もう私さ。 バトラーが来た時には私は頭を半分ぶちまけた死体だよ。
クソじじいめ、待てろ、今そこに行くからな。
聞けよバトラー。いいか、ゴーダさんたちがどうして食堂で6人が殺された時のこと、歯切れが悪いのか。あいつらな、人間じゃねえんだぜ。
何を言ってんだ。
見ちまったんだ、仕方ねえだろ。あいつらさ、ワープしたりバリア張ったりどこの漫画だよ、アニメだよ。いやマジでかなわねえぜ最初からさ、戦うとか無理なんだよ。バトラーが自慢してた棒仕掛けの槍程度でとてもどうにかなる相手じゃねえぜ。
A line of blood dripped down from Jessica's forehead.
ジョージ兄さんもダメだった。ありゃ、お前のテストも私たちと同じになるのかな。用心しろよ。そして間違えるな。
テストか？
違う、敵は間違えるなよ。敵は人間じゃない。恐ろしい魔法を自在に扱える。そこを絶対に
A line of blood dripped down from Jessica's mouth as well. The left half of her head started hurting. Jessica realized that she was about to return to the corpse she had been.
13人死ねば黄金の魔女が蘇る。母さんたちが殺されて6人。これで第1の番。そして私とジョージ兄さんが死んで第2の番。あと5人殺されれば儀式は完成で、父さんたち無事、もし無事じゃなかったらお前をテストするのは復活したてのベアトリーチェ自身ってことになるかもしれねえぜ。
By now, Battler had no idea what Jessica was saying. But from her tone, he realized that she knew she was about to die. So even though he didn't understand the situation, he urged her to hang on in there.
私はもう死んでるんだって。じゃあな、もう時間みたいだ。テスト頑張れよ。お前が当主に。
Oh my god.
ジェシカ、ジェシカ、おい、返事をしろ、ジェシカ。
Battler's sorrowful voice could be heard from the dangling receiver. Crouching with her back against the adjacent wall, Jessica's head was half smashed.
ここは？
これは井戸なのか？
A well.
ここはどこなんだ？
Heya stuck her face out of the well, and then Krauss showed himself too. He noticed that they could see the back of the mansion beyond a grove of trees. Krauss realized more or less where they were. To think that there had been a hidden underground passage in a well all the way out here, and that it led to a hidden mansion.
老体にはやはりこれは辛いですな。
Nanjo, you have a lot of explaining to do.
普段は別の場所からちゃんと階段で上がれるのです。
I'm pretty sure that different place with real stairs is where Eva went through to get to the Golden Land.
鍵さえ開けば。
南條先生には後でいろいろとここの構造についてお教え願いたいものだ。シャノン、 大丈夫かね。捕まりたまえ。
大丈夫です。カノン君、早く。
Kennen was the last, climbing up the ladder towards them in the shaft disguised as a well. It was probably quite deep. When he looked down for the first time, he realized how far he'd come up. No! No way. Ooh! Bang. As Kennen was about to finally crawl out of the well, a hole the size of a basketball opened up in his chest. Everyone there looked through the hole in Kennen's chest to the scenery beyond. Kennen toppled backwards and was swallowed up into the depths of the well. At that time, Krauss, Kyrie, and Nanjo clearly saw a golden curve appear from that well and sow itself through the side of Shannon's head. It pierced. The three were perfect witnesses to everything, up to and including the opposite side of her head being blasted away into pulp. Shannon fell to her knees, blood gushing from both sides of her head, and flopped to the ground. Nanjo had become paralyzed in fright by the manner of Shannon's death, and the Shiester sisters would not miss their chance. He's gone. A curve again appeared from the well and pierced through Nanjo's forehead and out the back of his head in an instant, sewing through him. Thump. And so Nanjo expired. The two dashed into the back entrance of the mansion. Then the instant Krauss tried to shut the door behind him, a golden curve appeared for the fourth time, piercing Krauss from the back of his head out through his forehead and smashing even his forehead to pieces. God. Krauss's body lurched over, fell on hard, and drew a neat radial pattern with the insides of his head. Kyrie ran wildly through the hallway, flew into some room and locked the door. But she couldn't imagine for a moment that this would save her life. She would probably die soon. This was apparently one of the guest rooms. At that moment, a phone on the side table caught Kyrie's eyes. Who's she gonna call? Or what is she gonna do with it? Oh, Battler? After hanging up the call from Jessica, Battler was literally just about to dash out. In an instant, the phone rang again. Still, actually, maybe I'm a bit paranoid. But even though we saw all of that happen in front of our eyes, if you were in Battler's position and you just got the call that someone escaped through the dungeon and they were the only one to escape, would it make you suspicious of them? Or would you believe that person? For Battler, well, it's Kyrie, so there's no reason to doubt her. But if it was anyone else, could you doubt them? What is the right way to approach this?
そこみんな無事なのかよ。こっちはジェシカとジョージの兄貴がどうやら。
聞いて、私の命は多分もう長くは持たないわ。
Oh no. Then right after she got a feeling that a keyhole of the locked door might have glowed gold. A gold curved line drawing a helix. No, a golden sewing thread infiltrated the room through there at an incredible speed and bored a hole into the floor by Kyrie's feet. Oh, that's rare. It missed. The enemy, who had sniped the other four one after another with extraordinary skill, apparently really does have trouble shooting me between the eyes with a single shot while I'm holed up in this room. But the next strike will probably hit. At this point, Kyrie finally remembered the initial massacre in the dining hall. That's right. This is what killed Rudolph and the rest, all 6 of them.
聞いてバトラ君、私が見たことをありのまま話す。バトラ君はきっと私の頭がどうにかなってしまったんだろうと思うに違いない。ええ、思ってくれていいわ。私だって何を見たのか未だに整理がつかない。今日バトラ君たちがゲストハウスに帰ってから、そして何が起こったかを全て話すわ。口を挟まないで最後まで聞いて。途中で急に電話が切れるかもしれない。そしたらその時は私が殺された時よ。
Then Kyrie spoke about how Kinzo had come, the family converse had started, the 6 had been killed, and the 5 of them had been confined. About how she escaped somehow and made it to where she was now. And how everyone had been killed, all spoken dispassionately, as she had seen it with no dramatization. She even spoke about how everyone except her had been killed, and how she observed the moments of all their deaths, and how even this very moment, someone was trying to kill her.
実はこの話をしている間にももう3度攻撃を受けている。
They've been missing. Strange.
鍵穴からおかしな黄金の糸みたいなのが飛び込んできて、くるくる回りながら私を狙ってくるの。最初は足元、次は肩の近く、さっきのは耳をかすったわ。狙いがだんだん正確になってくる。そろそろ私の眉間にズドンと来そうね。
逃げろ、キリエさん。逃げてくれ。
どこへよ。私ここまで逃げ延びてきて部屋に閉じこもって鍵までかけてるのよ。それでもなお狙われてる私がどこに隠れるのよ。ねえ。
My goodness.
ねえバトラ君、ジェシカちゃんとジョージ君、まだ生きてる？
What is he gonna say? Yes? No?
さっきジェシカから電話がなんかダメみたい。
やっぱり私たち5人が次々殺される時、何か予感していたの。ひょっとして13人殺しの儀式は第2の番を終えて私たちの番にまで至ったのかなって。
I was thinking about it, but at what point have they discussed about the epitaph? I mean, at least in this game. My assumption is that it kind of starts afresh, right? Anew? But I don't think anyone has talked about it. Well, I guess Kinzo brought it up. Maybe that's where they got it from? I just can't remember any explicit discussion about the epitaph amongst the Ushiromiya members.
つまり私が死ねば13、これで儀式は完成。黄金の魔女ベアトリーチェが復活する。一体どういうことになるのかしら。こんな悪魔だらけの魔女だらけ、ヤギの化け物がうじゃうじゃいるこの島に、さらにそいつらの親玉である黄金の魔女まで現れて、一体どうなっちゃうというのかしら。もう私には何が何だかわからない。
Lydia's son's voice had given up completely on her own life. And because Battler could tell that, he couldn't stop the tears.
一つだけ助言できることがあったわ。
何？
もしあなたの前に悪魔やら魔女が現れても、その正体を疑う必要は何もないわ。そういうものだと理解して。
That they are not human? Now we have to accept that they are not human? I don't know.
何か仕掛けがあるはずだとか、正体があるはずだとか、そんなことを考える余裕があったら、相手の機嫌を損ねないことを考えた方がよっぽどに建設的。間違ってもなら魔法を見せてみろなんて言っちゃダメよ。その証拠を彼らはこの上なく残酷な方法で見せ。
信じらんねえよ。キネさんの口からそんなこと言われるなんて信じらんねえよ。
分かってる。信じられないの。だからそれこそが私にできる助言。信じて。
ペアとリーチェと悪魔と魔女と化け物どもを信じろと。
Yeah, wait, I don't know. I feel something's kind of off.
私たちは多分あれほどまでにこの世ならざるものをありありと見せつけられても多分何も信じることができなかったと思うの。今の私もそう。さっきから襲ってきて私の額を撃ち抜こうとする者の正体さえ私には理解できず信じられない。
I don't know. Personally, I feel like something is kind of off about this situation because thinking about it, there's no way the Siester sisters would miss. No way. They managed to chase some people in episode 3 through the halls and everything. How are they missing just because they can't get into this room? There's no way. I don't believe it. Something is wrong.
だからあなただけは信じ理解して私たちに受け止めきれなかった存在を受け止めてほしい。そうしてくれたなら私たちの死は無駄にならない。私もこうして電話をした甲斐があったというものだわ。
キレさん
まだ大丈夫よ。かすったけどまた外したわ。さすがに今度はもうダメかもね。ありがとう。そしてさよならバトラク。あなたのことアスムさんの息子だからとその日のことを許して。
許すも何も今はキレイさんが俺にとっての母親だろうが。
Oh god. I felt as though I heard an incredible sound at the other end of the receiver, and then a noisy clattering sound, as though the receiver had fallen to the floor. It sounded like a gunshot.
キレイさんキレイさん
Sorry, but I won't believe it. There are no such things as witches or demons. Oh my god. Kyrie-san never responded through the phone. Again. Oh my goodness. That was a lot to take in. And 11:47, cause of the tragedy. Back in the guest house with only Marie and Butler. I'm in here for today. There's a lot of things that we can talk about, but more importantly, it's been quite a mentally tiring journey for this part of the episode because so many things happened. But personally, I feel like they stretched on for too long. The fight scenes were awesome, but also kind of strange. And towards the end there with Kyrie, I just couldn't help but feel like something's kind of wrong. I mean, we learned a lot more about them. About Kinzo, specifically. He's kind of fucked up. But, yeah. Anyway, I might add more thoughts, closing thoughts. I'll check the character menu. Once again, no one is dead, which is strange. No one is dead. Well, I'm gonna end here for today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!